right to await.
演员的生活就是在被选择的角色中选择想要呈现的情绪。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. It is so hard to find compromise, meet in the middle, and actually agree with lefties these days because it seems as though we're living in two different worlds. One world is reality and the next is whatever the Democrats are living in, some sort of delusional fantasy. It is hard to have a conversation with a group of people who absolutely deny reality. They would rather ignore the obvious, pretend that the obvious doesn't exist, as long as it benefits their political side, then obvious truth be damned. And so that's what I'm constantly left asking myself. Is the current political divide, this current situation, redeemable? If the other side is okay with our subjugation, is okay with the destruction of freedom, is okay to hand over all of the power to massive tech oligarchies, and is unwilling to have a truthful conversation, is unwilling to tackle the facts, I am not so sure, folks. We keep hearing from all of these liberals, well, various studies have proved that conservatives, in fact, are not subject to censorship at higher rates than liberals. They actually say that stuff with a straight face, that there's no such thing as an anti-conservative bias on these tech platforms. And then of course we get a study showing that Google is literally doing exactly that. A new report showing that Google's Gmail has been marking Republican political emails as spam at a rate of 820% higher than emails from Democrat candidates. But of course, this anti-conservative bias doesn't exist, is what the lefties will tell you, is what the news media will tell you, when we know that that is obvious BS. So that's what we're going to talk about. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this. Google pushed GOP fundraising emails to spam while delivering Democrats' calls for cash to inbox. Republican committees have filed a complaint to the Federal Elections Commission after researchers at the North Carolina State University's Department of Computer Science found that Google's Gmail marked emails from Republican candidates as spam at an astronomically higher rate than Democrat candidates. The findings were published in a study titled "A Peek into the Political Biases in Email Spam Filtering Algorithms During the U.S. 2020 Election." The study looked at 3 email service providers, Google, Outlook, and Yahoo. It found that while all service providers displayed some disparity in marking Republican candidate emails as spam, Google did such at a shockingly higher rate than its 2 competitors. The study's findings are shocking. All 3 services displayed some disparity, with Outlook marking Democrat emails as spam approximately 27% more than Republican emails, and Yahoo marking Democrat emails as spam approximately 14% more. In comparison, however, Google's Gmail truly stands apart as it marked Republican emails as spam at more than an 820% higher rate than it marked emails from Democrat candidates. Yet Democrats want to continuously tell us that anti-conservative bias at the biggest tech companies doesn't exist. Lefties constantly linking articles like this. No evidence of anti-conservative bias by social media, new study asserts. Internet platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are not systematically biased against conservatives or right-wing viewpoints in their content moderation practices, according to an analysis from NYU researchers. NYU researchers find no evidence of anti-conservative bias on social media. Researchers say claims of social media censoring conservatives are disinformation, but it's obvious bull. I mean, let's be real here, folks, which is something I know Democrats struggle with sincerely. The argument that Tim Pool made on Joe Rogan's podcast when confronting the Twitter lawyer as well as Twitter's ex-CEO Jack Dorsey is probably a great place to start. I mean, if you think about it, the terms of service themselves are biased against conservatives. Conservative narratives and conservative talking points are straight up outlawed on some of these platforms. You could say, well, conservatives are being banned because of the terms of service, and it's not actually a bias against conservatives when the entire system is biased. And just the algorithm, I mean, I don't need to do some fancy university study, research study, in order to make a point here and to make it confidently. I have the analytics for my YouTube channel, for instance. My stuff doesn't get promoted. It gets promoted to a very select, small group of people on the YouTube platform who have already catered their algorithm to right-wing politics and independent content creation. And that's how it is for every independent conservative commentator out there. It is in fact a shadow ban. When you watch a liberal hive mind video, what comes next is not a liberal hive mind video. It's a Fox News clip or a CNN clip. If you search for liberal hive mind in the YouTube search bar, what comes first is liberal Hindu. I've tried this in multiple different countries. I've tried this on different computers. It's always the same thing. From what I understand, I'm the biggest channel with the word liberal written in it. But even when you write liberal space H, liberal Hindu comes up and liberal hive mind doesn't. It might not be the same for everyone, but trust me, I've seen this happen countless amount of times. In fact, it's all I ever see. Then of course we go to the trending tab, which is nothing but a liberal cesspool of Jimmy Kimmel and all this other garbage content. But when Joe Rogan had Alex Jones on his podcast and had the most massively viral video on the platform in a very long time, it didn't make the top trending because it's curated. The systems are in place to suppress and hide Republican viewpoints. It's the same thing on Twitter. The trending tab is nothing but left-wing media outlets pushing anti-Trump and anti-conservative notions and stories above all else. Not to mention on the Twitter platform, when it comes to recommendations, I follow mostly conservative people. I'm clearly operating in a conservative environment on the platform, yet all I ever get shoved in front of my face by the Twitter algorithm is left-wing garbage. And you know how I'm gonna prove this? By literally going onto Twitter right now, scrolling through my timeline, and I could pretty much guarantee you the only political stuff that Twitter is going to recommend on my feed, outside of the people that I follow on Twitter, so the stuff that literally Twitter is just shoving in people's faces, is going to be left-wing garbage. And would you look at that? Here's a tweet from George Takei. Happy May the 2nd, as in, may the second Trump presidency never ever happen. And of course, the second one that I found was from Brian Tyler Cohen. We need to get every 18-year-old in this country registered. Even for conservative people with conservative algorithms built around their Twitter and YouTube experience, you get left-wing garbage shoved in your face constantly. Honestly, the YouTube algorithm is much better in that specific scenario. You cater your own algorithm, you're within your little bubble, and once you make it conservative, it stays conservative. But on Twitter, even with a deeply conservative algorithm that you've built around your posts, your likes, your retweets, and your tweets, and your follows, all the platform ever promotes is left-wing garbage. I literally just refreshed my Twitter based on your retweets. Codify Roe versus Wade in
Introducing Speechalo, the most natural sounding text-to-speech software on the market. Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from Speechalo. You listened to this video until now and you probably couldn't tell I'm not a real
into law. It's literally all I ever get on the platform. And that's what has these Democrats, and especially these Democrats in the media, livid, seething with rage, although what it really is panic. Like this complete meltdown on CNN.
No, I think there's a bigger problem that when we focus on the personalities of people like Elon Musk and people say, oh, I think Elon's thinking this or that. There's a bigger problem here about how we are going to control the channels of communication in this country. We gave over our what amounts to our airwaves or our internet waves to Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And we are in so much trouble because those guys believe in making money. We've already seen that with the 2016 election and Zuckerberg when he was taking rubles for ads from Russia and saying, oh, I think it's crazy to think they had any influence on this election. Musk is the same. Musk doesn't want it. You know, he's upset with the SEC, tried to, how dare they question him? You know what I'm saying? This is dangerous. We can't think anymore in this country. We don't have people, no, I'm serious, we don't have people in Congress who can make regulations that can make it work. I think we can look to the Western countries in Europe for how they are trying to limit it. But you need controls on this. You need regulation. You cannot let these guys control discourse in this country or we are headed to hell. We are there.
The words speak for themselves. These elitist Democrats are absolutely mortified with the idea that they will lose control over the flow of information and over what we can and can't say. They're already calling for more regulation, which means more censorship in the direction of the right wing, and they continue to prove what we've been saying all along. They are unhinged leftists with authoritarian tendencies, and what they are advocating for and what they are supporting is totally antithetical to the First Amendment, to the entire point of American freedom and what makes America great in in the first place, and is also antithetical to the principles of the internet in the first place. The internet was created to be a free platform, very similar to the cryptocurrency revolution that we're seeing in the finance sector, with the intention of being an open environment, and these big Democrat authoritarian left-wing goons, of course, will stop at nothing to get in the way of that. God forbid people get exposed to right-wing ideas and to their absurd and endless string of hypocrisy. That right there is the greatest threat to Democrat power. You know, a lot of the times you could see it in their talking points. You know, a couple years ago when lefties were claiming that there was this gateway to the alt-right, when really what it was a gateway to conservative ideas, and they wanted to shut it down at all costs. God forbid people watch Ben Shapiro and then become a conservative. That's exactly what they want to stop. They want to stop exposure to right-wing ideas, common sense conservative values, and traditional values. Because if people are exposed to these ideas, they might actually snap out of the liberal brainwash that the education system in Hollywood has infected their brains with, otherwise known as the woke mind virus, which of course, open free speech, open discussion, is the clear cure to this crippling diagnosis. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well folks, like I'm always saying with these Democrats, it's not for lack of trying, it's not for lack of effort. You gotta give it to them, they definitely give it their all. As a collective, they are incredibly persistent. But persistent or not, you could also say, they may be completely insane. After all, the definition of insanity is to continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And this is a very accurate description when it comes to Democrat voters, Democrat politicians, and Democrat elected officials. It seems as though a lot of these left-wingers have gone completely insane since the Donald Trump era, otherwise known as Trump derangement syndrome. Honestly, these days you might want to call it Trump psychosis, Trump-induced psychosis, whatever you want to call it. These absolute nutcases, as we've been following and as I've been reporting, are still trying to prosecute Donald Trump. Well, today, folks, it seems as though it's finally over, at least in New York City or in New York State, where the New York grand jury investigation has, quote, fizzled out, and New York has now failed to file for criminal charges against Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. Once again, Donald Trump has been totally exonerated. Democrats are essentially looking like this. But one thing we know for sure, one thing we know for certain, the easiest prediction to make, this definitely isn't the end of their anti-Trump hysteria and anti-Trump obsession. Let me update you guys on the failed New York investigation that has led to 0 criminal charges, another massive blunder and waste of taxpayer dollars. And then let's just talk about this extremely unhealthy obsession with Donald Trump. Of course, continue to highlight the hypocrisy of it all. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this from the Conservative Brief. And you know this is from the Conservative Brief, so it must be true. New York's attempt to file criminal charges against Trump fails miserably. A grand jury convened in 2021 for a span of 6 months to hear evidence in the criminal probe of former President Donald Trump and his companies in New York is set to expire this week. Democratic prosecutors formed the grand jury last fall, but with no charges having been brought against the former president, means the criminal investigation is, quote, fizzling out, according to the Washington Post. The initial charges were brought by former New York County District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance Jr., who thought that Trump could be guilty of manipulating the values of his properties in order to gain tax advantages and favorable loan rates. The grand jury was convened in November as part of that probe. And don't you find that interesting? The former New York County District Attorney, of course, who happened to be a Democrat, no surprise to anybody, well, he just thought that Trump could be guilty of manipulating the value of his properties. And so based on his thought, based on his hunch, as ridiculous as that sounds within the context of an actual legal investigation, well, they did exactly that. They launched a massive multi-million dollar investigation and grand jury investigation into Trump and his organization. investigation. How ludicrous is that? Not to mention the base charges make absolutely no sense in the first place, which is of course something that we've covered extensively. But let's continue the article and see what the Washington Post is saying here. The Post adds, a key problem some of those people said was Bragg's concern over whether former Trump fixer Michael Cohen should be used as a witness. Bragg has said that he will announce when the investigation is over, noting that even after the special grand jury disbanded, other grand juries hearing a broad range of criminal cases in New York would be available to take action in this one if needed. Still, the expiration of the grand jury and the departure in February of two senior prosecutors who said Bragg was stalling the inquiry makes any potential indictment of Trump seen as unlikely, legal observers have said. By the time Mark Pomerantz and Carrie Dune quit, the grand jury had been inactive for weeks, with jurors being told to stay home, a person with knowledge of the issue previously said. The paper noted further that prosecutors in the office of the New York Attorney General Letitia James, also a Democrat, are skeptical that any criminal case will be brought, people familiar with the situation said, adding that a spokeswoman for James said the investigation continues. Everything related to this case is an absolute sham, and it seems as though they want to make the key witness Michael Cohen, which of course brings in a whole other set of issues, considering the legal pressure that Michael Cohen is personally facing and how credible he would be perceived as a witness against the Trump organization. I highly doubt that New York prosecutors will be able to pursue that avenue. And outside of Michael Cohen, I mean, there's just literally nothing. And as we're seeing from insiders, the grand jury has been told to stay home for weeks. Essentially, there's absolutely nothing going on here. Nothing but an unmitigated disaster and an endless political witch hunt based on some feeling of perceived guilt. I mean, just take a look at some of these quotes. "We will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions, and that of his family as well," Letitia James told NBC News in December 2018. I mean, what kind of quote is that? Based on no evidence of wrongdoing whatsoever, we will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump. Why? Because he has an R next to his name and you have a D? Take a look at this one. "We want to investigate anyone in his orbit who has in fact violated the law," said James, who was endorsed by then New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Like I keep saying, folks, it's nothing but political harassment. Harassment of Donald Trump, his organization, his family, and his friends, and of course his associates. Literally anybody related to Donald Trump, as Letitia James put it, anyone in his orbit, is an investigation target in the state of New York, for no other reason other than being within the orbit of Donald Trump. Essentially, no reason at all, or at least no good reason is probably a better way to put it. It's nothing but a partisan obsession. Trump derangement syndrome, Trump psychosis, whatever you want to call it. Get Donald Trump at all costs, because that is what the puppet masters of the DNC, the Washington Democrat establishment, want. Stop Donald Trump at all costs. And speaking of this ridiculous obsession and the Democrat puppet masters, Washington Democrat swamp creatures, this is the kind of obsession that I'm talking about. Hillary Clinton takes swipe at Donald Trump, goes on woke feminist rant at Madeleine Albright's funeral. Even during a funeral, during a time where you were supposed to be showing respect and celebrating the legacy and the life of an individual who has passed, Hillary Clinton cannot stop herself but to go on an anti-Trump tirade during Madeleine Albright's funeral. If that's not an unhealthy anti-Trump hysteria obsession, then I don't know what is. We are here to celebrate and pay our respects to the incredible legacy and life of Madeleine Albright. Also, Trump is a literal fascist. Re our democracy, re Capitol Hill riot, Donald Trump Makuma insurrection. I mean, come on. These people are crazy. I mean, it's actual craziness. Stop at nothing until Donald Trump and anyone around him, and even his supporters, have been utterly destroyed. I mean, the lack of self-awareness, these people don't see how insane they look. The New York District Attorney Letitia James, who's supposed to be an arbiter of the law, somebody using taxpayer dollars from Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, who's tasked with being essentially a neutral head prosecutor, gets elected on this idea of going after Donald Trump and, quote, anyone in his orbit. How is that not perceived as absolutely insane? How is that perceived as ethical? How is that even allowed to continue or to exist in the first place? It makes absolutely no sense, and these Democrats, these vile, vengeful, anti-Trump figures, continue to expose themselves, and hopefully, after yet again another legal failure from these Democrat actors, and hopefully in the end this whole thing backfires like everything else has been and leads to the incredible Trump comeback, the Trump resurgence that frankly Democrats are paving the way for. Honestly, it seems as though that's exactly what's happening. The more they go after him and the more they fail, the better Trump looks, and the more people look onto Trump sympathetically. And in the end, I think that's going to be their undoing. But that's also what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. I'm going to get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching.
让我感觉我不管是左翻右翻，好像都可以支撑我的肩膀。
安谨慎最好眠。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Folks, it is actually happening. And I guess it's not exactly surprising knowing who Elon Musk is and what he stands for, but it seems as though with Elon Musk about to take over Twitter, take it as a private company, and with Elon being the sole owner of the company, it's looking like when that happens that Donald Trump's Twitter account will in fact be reinstated. Donald Trump is going to be unbanned from Twitter. He's going to be back and better than ever. Now, a lot of people are probably saying, well, Trump said he wouldn't come back to Twitter. My perspective on the matter is that that's absolutely not the case. I believe Donald Trump is absolutely going to be back on the platform, most likely before the 2022 election. Well, I guess that depends on when Elon Musk is actually going to take over Twitter. And with Twitter booming these days with tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, who even knows, maybe over 1 million conservatives coming back to the platform. For instance, just my little Twitter account, I've already gained thousands of new subscribers with Elon Musk taking over the platform, as well as thousands more just people coming back to the platform. Engagement is up, the platform is just booming. And with the 2022 midterms right around the corner and the very likely possibility of Donald Trump running again in 2024, I think it's very likely Trump is back. And now there is a legitimate avenue for the Don45, the most popular Twitter user of all time, to come back to the platform, shake things up, and have liberals seething and coping across the globe, worldwide. Folks, it's happening. Trust me, mark my words. It is happening. Let me show you guys what's going on, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at this. Elon Musk vehemently opposed Twitter's Trump ban report. Elon Musk, quote, vehemently opposed Twitter's decision to ban former President Donald Trump, saying the social media giant was wrong for censoring a sitting president, according to a report. Jared Birchall, Musk's top assistant, who has been described as the point man for the Tesla CEO's $44 billion takeover bid of Twitter, told an associate that the idea of banning a sitting president from Twitter was, quote, insane. According to the Wall Street Journal, Musk reportedly remains dismayed that Trump is still not permitted to tweet, according to the paper, which cited unnamed sources close to the situation. Since news of the takeover was announced, Musk has given no indication as to whether he will allow Trump back onto the platform. Trump supporters have been energized by the prospect of Musk taking control of Twitter and overhauling its content moderation policy. Trump, for his part, has vowed not to return to Twitter, instead touting his own social media platform, Truth Social. Meanwhile, Musk, in a rare public reference to the situation last week, said Truth Social is due for a name change. Truth Social, terrible name, exists because Twitter censored free speech, Musk tweeted, should be called Trumpet instead. And now look, I know a lot of people get outraged and get in their feelings if you disagree with Donald Trump or criticize anything that he's doing, but Elon Musk is right here. I mean, Truth Social is an absolutely terrible name the moment I saw it. I just thought the marketing was not on point. I think Parler and Gab are much better names. I personally think it would have been way smarter for Donald Trump to just maybe buy Gab or team up with Gab instead of launching his own platform. But really, one of the biggest issues that I have with these Twitter alternative alt-tech platforms, and the main reason why for me it's just not a Twitter replacement, is largely due to the fact these platforms exist as totally partisan environments. Donald Trump-owned Truth Social is going to be a Trump social media network, which is fine, you know, I have no issue with that. But I personally like seeing what left-wingers are saying. I like Twitter because it's a left-wing ecosystem. I like Twitter because all the mainstream journalists are there saying ridiculously dumb things. Leftist talking points are trending. You read some of the most ridiculous stuff, you see the most epic takedowns. It's basically a battleground of ideas. I don't know if an alt-tech free speech platform, which is marketed as almost like a conservative haven, can really replicate what Twitter has because I don't see left-wingers migrating to that platform. What we have here is very different. We have a bunch of leftists who have been saying forever, if you don't like the censorship, if you don't like our rules on our platform, then make your own platform, which we won't participate in, and you guys will just have your own little ecosystem, your own bubble, your own echo chamber. And what ended up happening in the end was Elon Musk essentially buying their platform and saying, it's ours now. Kind of, not really. It's more like Elon Musk is trying to buy it to make a neutral, open, free speech platform, and I think that is the best alternative, that's the best option. Well, second best to it, just totally decentralized platform. And so here's where I have another issue. I don't think the possible future president of the United States should be controlling a platform that is used as the main platform for public conversation and the flow of information. I think it's better if Donald Trump is frankly not part of it. If he's going to be running for president in 2024, he shouldn't own CNN or own Twitter or own Facebook or own Google. That to me seems like a conflict of interest. It seems highly unethical. And so the best alternative right now is Elon Musk buying Twitter, that being the platform, and Donald Trump coming back. And that's the thing, I don't think he's going to have much of a choice in the end. The reality of what's going on with Truth Social post Elon Musk Twitter takeover is honestly not really looking that good. Over the last 2 months, Donald Trump's Digital World Acquisition Corp, Truth Social's launch wasn't exactly the smoothest thing ever. It seemed a little bit convoluted and complicated, and they still don't have a web-based version. I don't use apps on my phone personally, I use my computer. When I'm not on my computer, the last thing that I want to be doing is spending my time on social media or on my cell phone doing anything. I use my cell phone for two things: looking things up and using Google Maps to try to figure out where I'm going, or making phone calls. I don't even text message, I'm kind of a boomer, and when it comes to business, timing is everything. The question is, you gotta be totally neutral here. I get it if you're a supporter of Donald Trump's tech venture, and look, I was too, and I still kind of am, but at the end of the day, the timing is not exactly ideal. They've yet to launch a web version. I've even seen some reports that Truth Social app downloads are down 95%, and all of this timed in with Elon Musk taking over Twitter. It really seems like Twitter is going to be the platform, and I don't really think there's an issue there. Twitter already has all of the left-wingers there to be debunked and memed on. More and more meme lords are heading to Twitter every single day. It's been an absolute hoot on the platform, to be honest, recently. And so it's almost as if we already have our Twitter alternative, and it's Elon Musk buying Twitter. The Twitter alternative is Twitter. And what's clearly eventually going to happen here, when Twitter Incorporated is taken private and Elon Musk cleans house, getting rid of the content moderation team leads, getting rid of Mr. Parag Agrawal and the rest of these goons, probably one of the first decisions that's going to be made is reinstating Donald Trump's Twitter account. And the question is, with 100 million Twitter followers, and with everything Donald Trump wants to tell the world, you mean to tell me that Donald Trump is just going to resist? He's going to stay away from the platform and not tweet out to millions upon millions upon millions of people going after Biden and Hillary Clinton? You mean to tell me that when the next big John Durham revelation comes out that Donald Trump is just going to stay quiet when he has access to his Twitter account to tweet to hundreds of millions of people saying, "I told you so"? It's the most powerful tool he has. It's one of the main tools that won him the 2016 election. Donald Trump is going to be back on Twitter. He's going to be back and bigger and better than ever, and you could pretty much take that to the bank. That is my prediction. And you know what? I think it's a good thing, and it's pretty close to best case scenario. It's like the meme says, lefties said get your own platform, and instead we took theirs from them. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well folks, another one bites the dust. This cultural shift, folks. All of these companies have tried to force the woke in business. I mean, frankly, in life, you cannot force something that is deeply unpopular. Eventually, you're going to realize that it's completely unsustainable. A couple days ago, we covered the story that the Obamas had their podcast deal with Spotify canceled, and then lo and behold, a couple days later, Royal UK Quad Prince Harry and his entitled wife Meghan Markle just got their Netflix series cancelled. As the cultural pendulum continues to swing, and it swings by force, folks, the woke business model is absolutely unsustainable. And even though Netflix wants to push Meghan Markle feminist garbage TV shows, where multi-millionaire married into royalty, technically considered a princess Meghan Markle, wants to push grievance politics and talk about how oppressed she is, while literally being one of the most privileged people on earth. Even though Netflix wants to push that stuff, these companies are realizing there's just no market for it, and the moment their profits are threatened, guess what's first to go and first to get cancelled? Of course, the woke garbage. So of course, let me show you guys exactly what's going on here, but before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at the headline right over here. Netflix cancels Meghan Markle's series as streaming platform nosedives to be declared the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 this year. Amid a devastating past week for Netflix, the streaming service giant canceled an animated series created by Meghan Markle and Elton John's husband, David Furnish. Deadline reported on Sunday, Netflix has quietly dropped Pearl, the working title of an animated series that was created by Meghan Markle through Archwell Productions. The shingle The Duchess of Sussex and Prince Harry set up at Netflix in fall of 2020 to create scripted series, docuseries, documentaries, features, and children's programming. And that right there, folks, is not a coincidence, it's not an accident. What they literally mean is children's programming to program children. The project was still in the development stage when it was dropped by Netflix. Netflix announced Pearl in July 2021, described as a family-focused animated series that revolves around the adventures of a 12-year-old girl who is inspired by influential women in history. Like many girls her age, our heroine, Pearl, is on a journey of self-discovery as she tries to overcome life's daily challenges. Markle said in a 2021 statement, "I'm thrilled that Archwell Productions partnered with the powerhouse platform of Netflix, and these incredible producers will together bring you this new animated series which celebrates extraordinary women throughout history." Markle and her husband, Prince Harry, signed a deal with Netflix to offer original programming such as documentaries, features, and scripted shows. The New York Times reported that the deal was estimated to be in the neighborhood of $100 million. Last week, Netflix canceled two other animated series for children that were in production, Dino Daycare and Boons and Curses. Netflix has faced challenges in 2022. Fortune reported for the first time in a decade, Netflix has lost subscribers, shedding 200,000 users last quarter. The company announced in its earnings report this week. Netflix stock dropped nearly 38% on the news. Year to date, Netflix stock has nosedived by more than 68%. Netflix is the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 this year, according to the New York Times. Bank of America analyst Nat Schindler says that things may get worse for Netflix before they get better. Schindler says that Netflix's plan to reignite its growth story won't have a noticeable impact until 2024, given investors little reason to be excited about the stock in the interim. Netflix also fired around 25 employees on Thursday, and Vulture reported that the streaming service told staffers at its editorial branch, reportedly without warning, that they were being fired. And there you have it, folks. What this truly is the woke, liberal, elitist business model. It just doesn't work. Netflix is surprised that they're not putting out quality content. Netflix is surprised that their investments aren't paying off after investing $100 million in Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and Elton John's husband. I mean, let's just say hypothetically I had $100 million and somebody was to come to me saying, invest your $100 million into my new project. And then I would of course question, well, what's this new project? And they told me, well, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, two of the most hated people on the planet, who continue to get these deals with other companies like Spotify, for instance, and then produce absolutely nothing for years after being paid 18 million British pounds. Not to mention the very unpalatable grievance feminist politics that comes out of Meghan Markle's mouth. And Prince Harry, well, I mean, there's just really nothing there now, is there? But if somebody was to tell me to invest $100 million into these two, and then Elton John's husband, I would probably respond with something like, you are out of your damn mind if you think you're getting a penny for this project. And this is what I mean by woke, elitist, liberal entertainment. It's not a meritocracy. It's not who's making the best content, who has the best screenplay, the best idea. It's who do you know, who are you connected to, which leads you to just magically and miraculously score $100 million contracts with no talent, and it was just some vague idea like we're gonna make kids shows pushing modern feminism. I mean, it's just too easy. You don't need a script, no screenplay, no concept art, no previous experience within the domain, just fame and pushing grievance ideology politics. You're hired. It's absolutely stupid, and these companies are wondering why they're tanking beyond belief. The world of entertainment is supposed to be about entertaining, quality content, but it's become focused on left-wing political propaganda messaging campaigns, and the craziest part, using the most unlikable characters you could possibly imagine to push that message. Meghan Markle, a TV actress who's been in a couple TV shows, marries low-IQ Prince Harry, and then magically becomes the most sought-after producer and content creator that all the big-name companies are facing. What an absolutely trash business model. And it's the same people that want to lecture you about grievance politics and privilege. I mean, give me a break. The fact that we have top CEOs running these massive companies being paid millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to make these kinds of decisions is just wild to me. I mean, going back to the Twitter story we covered a couple days ago, paying Mrs. Vijaya $17 million a year to ruin the platform, it's something we see across left-wing businesses and organizations. People getting promoted to positions of power based purely off political ideology, gender, you name it, and people seemingly failing upwards, continuing to make absolutely terrible business decisions, being guided by woke identity intersectionality politics, actively sabotaging the companies that they work for, and then being promoted to positions of power and executive positions with a track record or a resume of failure. It's absolute lunacy. Nobody wants woke politics or garbage content based off of or produced by liberal elitists with no real talent or with no real interesting story just because they're in the woke Washington, Hollywood, and New York crowd. Here's actually a great example. Sales of Jill Biden's biography are embarrassingly low. Twitter users react. Quote, her husband is the most popular president in American history. You might not have known this because you're probably busy being a normal person and living your normal life, but Joe Biden's wife, Jill Biden, releases a biography of her incredibly interesting life. And by incredibly interesting, I mean an absolute snooze fest that nobody gives a crap about. And would you look at that? Her book sold 250 copies in the first week. Once again, who's working at these publishing companies, making these decisions that writing a Jill Biden biography is a good idea? I mean, who wants that? Who wants to turn on the TV and watch TV produced by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and Elton John's husband? And who wants to read a book about Jill Biden's life? The entertainment industry has been totally corrupted. It's been corrupted by politics, and I mean directly corrupted by politics. Here's a great example. Disney executive who helped craft company's response to Florida's parental rights law quits after just 3 months, replaced by former political aide to Obama, Clinton, and Biden. These massive companies are directly connected to Washington Democrats, and they continue to try to propagandize the entertainment industry for political purposes and political gain, for indoctrination purposes. That's why they're so focused on targeting your kids with kids' TV shows, as we saw with Meghan Markle and obviously Disney. I mean, speaks for itself. And in the end, who is really surprised that it's failing? Nobody wants this stuff, and it's only a matter of time before the free market does what it does best, and that's purging garbage products. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, would you look at that? A week after Joe Biden was claiming that the reason he got into politics was to fight abuse of power and government corruption, Joe Biden follows that statement by creating a U.S. Ministry of Truth. And people are saying, well, that's an exaggeration, that's not what it actually is. And I say, or I would respond, please get your head out of your behind and wake up as to what's going on here. Democrats are fearful that they're losing control of narratives. They're losing control of social media, especially with Elon Musk purchasing the entire Twitter platform. And they are in a sheer, absolute panic right now, because without control over the platforms, they will lose the information battle. Here's the reality. Democrats thrive in an environment of ignorance. You ever think to yourself why there's more conservative commentators and conservative content creators than there are left-wing? I mean, just think about it. Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Dr. Jordan Peterson, most of the intellectual dark web, Joe Rogan, the list goes on and on and on. There's probably 20 that I I can name off the top of my head, not including myself. In the left-wing content creation and commentary space, who is there? There's only a couple characters. Vosh, Hassan, Destiny, Kyle Kalinske, that Taylor Cohen guy, I forget his name, David Pacman. For the most part, their popularity, their views, their reach pales in comparison to the big boys in the right-wing world. And that's because of one thing. Left-wing voters are too busy on TikTok or paying attention to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, all the Hollywood distraction with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, what Nicki Minaj is doing this week, and what celebrity X, Y, and Z said on their Instagram lives. They're too busy being distracted to actually be paying attention to quality political commentary. That's just a personal theory. Well, what happens when the Democrats start losing control of these platforms? You can't just shove left-wing propaganda and celebrity distractions in everyone's face, and a marketplace for ideas and content becomes more even. Well, left-wingers might just start to lose. They might lose the information battle, the narrative battle, and it has them petrified, mortified. And so was it any surprise that the moment Elon Musk was talking about buying Twitter, that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created their anti-disinformation campaign, and all of a sudden, Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security starts a disinformation board? Of course, it's no surprise, folks. In the world of politics, like I always say, folks, there is no such thing as a coincidence. The Democrats are doing what Democrats do best, and that's abuse their power and kick the propaganda machine into absolute overdrive. It's a strategy, folks. I mean, it's the typical Democrat strategy. But what I want to focus on, what I want to talk about, is exactly why I think it's not going to work, especially considering the current timing. We got some stuff to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned with the YouTube algorithm hidden from non-subscribed viewers. That out of the way, roll the tape. Alright folks, so the issues. The timing on this US Ministry of Truth could not be worse for the Democrats. That's my current theory. Think about everything that is working against the Democrats right now. Think about the ammunition, think about the arsenal that Republicans are going into 2022 campaign season with, and just how on the defensive Joe Biden and the rest of these Democrats currently are on all of these issues working against them, and how, of course, they're likely to be on the defensive entirely throughout the 2022 campaign season. Well, the Democrats have failed to come up with a coherent messaging platform, or really anything to run on in 2022, and they think that this is a good idea. They have to defend themselves against inflation, the border, Afghanistan, foreign policy blunders, parental rights and education in their rhetoric in relation to that specific topic. They have to run away from socialism, the progressive squad, and now on top of all of that, plus some other issues like crime and other things, they have to defend themselves against this unconstitutional power grab and propaganda arm of the Democrat Party in Washington, known as the DHS's Disinformation Governance Board, led by Mrs. Nina Jankowicz. This person.
Laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, they're laundering disinfo when we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious.
Who is getting exposed like I've never seen before as a totally corrupt partisan actor, with more and more tweets coming out showing exactly who she is. You know, just recently, Jen Psaki said this.
She's an expert on online disinformation. She was formerly in the Wilson Center's she was formerly a disinformation fellow at the Wilson Center. She's testified before Congress as well as the United Kingdom and European parliaments, advised a Ukrainian foreign minister, particularly relevant in this moment, under the auspices of a Fulbright Public Policy Fellowship, and overseeing Russia and Belarus programs at the National Democratic Institute. Any hiring decisions are up to the Department of Homeland Security, but this is a person with extensive qualifications.
That the new Ministry of Truth director is an expert in online disinformation. Well, yeah, she is. She's an expert in propagating disinformation. We've covered the initial tweets that went viral in relation to the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, but now some more tweets have come out. IC has a high degree of confidence that the Kremlin used proxies to push influence narratives, including misleading or unsubstantiated claims about President Biden, to the US media. media, officials, and influencers, some close to President Trump, a clear nod to the alleged Hunter laptop. The person who's allegedly an expert in misinformation is literally saying that the intelligence community has a high degree of confidence that the Kremlin is behind the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Not to mention this connection, which is possibly even worse, revealed Biden's Ministry of Truth head is a fan of doxer Taylor Lorenz. This from the 31st of May 2021, a tweet that was since deleted by Taylor Lorenz, which I'm assuming was some sort of grievance or pity campaign that Taylor Lorenz was launching after receiving criticism for her absolutely disgusting and deplorable, it's hard to even call it journalism, but hit piece journalism. Nina Jankowicz writes, "I'm so sorry, Taylor. We're with you." If that doesn't show exactly who Nina Jankowicz is, then I don't know what will. Somebody who pushes left-wing propaganda, literal lies, in order to influence public discourse to the benefit of the current Democratic candidate. If it's not shocking to you that this person would now be the head of a misinformation governance board at a federal agency, well then something might be wrong with you, because there is certainly so much wrong with this. The fact that a free country like the United States of America would ever need a governing board or federal agency to supposedly verify and validate narratives, scandals, and stories. If that doesn't freak you out, if the first thought that comes to your head isn't blatantly unconstitutional, then again, something really might be wrong with you. But also, again, this whole thing is totally going to backfire. It's another weapon in the Republican arsenal that's going to be used against Democrats, against Joe Biden. I guarantee you polling data is going to come out to suggest that a strong majority of the American people do not support Joe Biden's Ministry of Truth. And now we have Republicans vowing to eradicate Biden's disinformation governing board. Boebert says it is at a Stalin level. DeSantis warns, you cannot have a Ministry of Truth in this country. And here are some of the quotes. Kevin McCarthy said, "The same party that spent years promoting the Russia collusion hoax, suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, and equated parents to terrorists, believes it has credibility to control your speech. Biden must immediately abandon his plan to create an Orwellian Ministry of Truth." Marco Rubio says, "Nothing else we are working on will matter if we do not put an end to Biden's Ministry of Truth." Dan Crenshaw writes, "We're supposed to trust the Department of Homeland Security to run a Ministry of Truth when its current secretary spent this week lying repeatedly to Congress that our border is secure." Marsha Blackburn, Elise Stefanik, Steve Scalise, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lee Zeldin, Ohio congressional candidate J.D. Vance, declaring that when he gets to the Senate, he will defund the Biden administration's Ministry of Truth. This is downright scary. The list goes on and on and on and on. More ammunition for Republicans to get elected, get control of the House, and get control of the Senate, and put a stop to Joe Biden and his Ministry of Truth, with even Elon Musk calling Biden's new Ministry of Truth, quote, messed up, Tulsi Gabbard slamming Disinformation Governance Board as Biden's propaganda arm and Ministry of Truth, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and even other Democrats have some serious ethical issues with this new proposed arm of the federal government. Well, the Democrats just royally screwed up. They gave more ammo to the Republican Party, the Republican candidates, and it's more reason why a red wave must happen in 2022 and why Joe Biden should be kicked to the curb come 2024. More reason to clean house in Washington and get rid of these unconstitutional Democrat goons. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The word literal, or the word literally. People often use this word incorrectly, often to exaggerate or add hyperbole to a sentence to say something like, Joe Biden is a literal vegetable. In order for him to be a literal vegetable, he'd have to literally be a carrot. But of course, while grammatically incorrect, I get why people use it that way. It's an exaggeration meant to be hyperbolic, extreme, but in this case, it might not be hyperbole. Some of these lefties out here and these lefty activists might literally be NPCs, non-playable characters. I mean, if you think about it, we might just be living through some sort of simulation where some of us have consciousness and others are just bots. And you might be asking, well, what am I getting at? Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a brain malfunction?
Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that
stupid question. I mean, of course you have, the President of the United States, but have you ever seen a leftist activist just completely shut down? As the meme of the day shows you guys, when you forgot to download the latest firmware update, no more comments, when the talking points haven't been uploaded, or when your leftist talking point has been completely debunked and you have no response, and the leftist activist mind just shuts down. Malfunction, dysfunction, blue screen, whatever you want to call it. I have an example from Rebel News in Canada. I'm sure with all the Justin Trudeau nonsense that's been going on recently, a lot of you guys are keenly aware of this network, and especially with all the convoy stuff that was going on. Well, a Rebel News reporter named, I believe, David Menzies had an interaction with a leftist activist protester holding a sign, and folks, I don't mean this facetiously, a literal NPC. Let me show you guys what happened, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here's David Menzies from Rebel News interviewing an anti-convoy protester, protesting what seems to be a non-existent convoy. I mean, the convoy ended months ago, but nonetheless a leftist activist who has so much to say and so much to stand for, enough to be on the streets with a sign, being asked very, very simple questions, and well, it's just a massive train wreck, and that's putting it nicely.
If you're going to protest something as nebulous as freedom, then you can't encroach on others.
I'm not sure I understand. Is nebulous as freedom?
The concept of a nebulous freedom. They don't have a specific title, a specific reason for being here. They're all over the place, and all they're doing is suppressing Ottawa residents, Ottawa businesses. We are being harassed and held hostage for their supposed encroachments on freedom. What does a single white man have to say to anybody about a bodily autonomy freedoms?
I'm not sure what race has to do with it.
I didn't say anything about race.
You said a white man.
Single white man, sure, race.
Okay, so I mean, what does race have to do with it? When I look at people that are gathering here today, it's right across the multi-diverse spectrum.
No more comments.
Oh, okay then. Well, by the way, when it says convoy go home, didn't the convoy go home in February?
They called it a convoy? It's a convoy.
You mean the this gathering here, is that a convoy?
Please go away.
Okay, then.
No more comments.
All right. But
no more comments.
It just seems to
no
be...
more comments.
Okay.
No more comments.
You can't articulate...
No more comments.
Wow.
No more comments.
Have I triggered you?
No more comments. No more comments. No more comments. No more comments.
It's like interviewing a
no more comments.
Soda doesn't come.
No more comments. No more comments. No more comments.
Like
no more comments. No more comments. No more comments. No more comments. Walk away. No more comments. Back away. No more comments. 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 No more comments.
My powers are never truly.
This little interaction here is a perfect example of so many things that are wrong with the left side, left-wing wokeism, activism, and it all comes together perfectly in a little 2-minute snippet video to expose this kind of activism for what it is. First of all, the initial point that she tries to make about this nebulous concept called freedom, which David Menzies immediately goes, what do you mean by nebulous? The pseudo-intellectualism of the left, just using words that sound smart in the completely wrong context in order to make a completely failed point. This nebulous concept called freedom. What I think she's trying to say is that I guess these convoy protesters, which I'm not exactly sure whether convoy protesters because the convoy ended months ago, seem to be claiming that they're fighting for freedom in a nebulous manner, in a hazy manner where they don't have a clear identity or a clear point that they're trying to make, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. There was a very clear stated mission with the convoy protest a couple months ago, and what they were standing against was government mandated medical procedures, getting in the way of what they viewed as their freedom to work and earn a living. Doesn't seem so nebulous to me. It seems like they had a very coherent message and plan. But secondly, to describe this concept of freedom as nebulous, to use the words something as nebulous as freedom, shows exactly what side these lefties are on. To so nonchalantly disregard this idea of freedom as if it's something not worth fighting for, or even making implications in many of these cases that they are anti-freedom, just shows you exactly who they are. This is why they take these stances when it comes to online censorship. They don't care about freedom of speech. They're little mini tyrants, mini authoritarians who would like to weaponize corporations, weaponize the state in order to suppress other people's freedoms if it pleases them politically. Little left-wing tyrants who shut down dialogue the moment it doesn't go their way. The moment they get debunked, the moment their argument starts to fall apart, they resort to this tactic of shutting down the conversation.
No more comments! No more comments! No more comments! No more comments!
And it's something we see constantly with left-wing activists. I mean, how incredibly easy. Anytime somebody makes a valid point and debunks my claim, to respond with maybe something like this, or to respond the opposing party by accusing them of racism or bigotry. How incredibly easy. You never have to make a valid point, because you're coddled, you're entitled, the world revolves around you. And of course, the facts don't matter. All that matters is narrative and ideology. This is what we constantly see, and speaking of that, literally during the same day, during the same event, here's another left-wing tactic to shut down conversation.
What exactly does the pigs represent there?
Left-wingers don't want to have conversations. They don't want to defend their points. They want merely to screech, attack you, label you, and shut down conversation. I mean, just think about it. Could you imagine showing up to a protest? You're there with a political message. I mean, you're there to make a point. And then when confronted about your ideas or questioned on your ideas, you came prepared with the facts. No, scratch that. You didn't come prepared with the facts. You came prepared with a dog toy or a rubber ducky to squeak into the microphone. Literally anything, but having to actually defend your ideas. I mean, if you think about it, it's not exactly different. Asking a group of leftists to defend their ideas or to back up their claims. If you think about it, it's not so different. Asking lefties to defend their ideas or to validate their points. It's essentially the same thing, incoherent screeching and a bunch of nonsense, anything but facts and valid points. It's self-righteousness mixed with pseudo-intellectualism, and it's frankly insufferable. It's either screeching, shutting down conversation, or resorting to some sort of label, some sort of identity politics cop-out. And also going back to the initial clip.
What does a single white man have to say to anybody about a bodily autonomy and freedom? I didn't say anything about race.
You said a white man.
Single white man, sure, race.
What does race have to do with any of it? I never mentioned anything about race. You literally targeted white males. NPC brain malfunction.
No more comments! No more comments! No more comments! No more comments!
What a thoughtful and intellectual conversation. No wonder we can't get anywhere. We can't have conversations or find middle ground with these far lefty activist types. I mean, it's literally impossible. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy. These people are truly insufferable, folks. They are so disconnected, so out of touch. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is back, and the left-wing media is trying to make it seem as if it was a smashing success for Joe Biden and other comedians, but I think I'm speaking for most people, at least most people who don't have their head in their behind. It was one of the most cringe viewing experiences I've had in a very, very long time. And the concept that I want want to stick to is out of touch, tone deaf, whatever you want to call it. What these people seem to not understand these days is that Americans are walking away from this nonsense. The same way the Grammys, Oscars, Golden Globes, I don't even know half the names of these shows, or these ceremonies and events, continue to tank and crater into complete irrelevance in their ratings. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is joining the same garbage category. It's a bunch of rich, elitist, liberal Democrats, one massive left-wing circle jerk, and it just comes off as cringe and, most importantly, very poorly timed. I want to cover this train wreck of a White House Correspondents' Dinner. Like I said, the left-wing media, all these articles that are coming out are praising this event as such an incredible success for Joe Biden. Well, let's hit him with a healthy dose of reality, because it was anything but. We got some stuff to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so Brian Stelter takes to Twitter and writes, "Moment of the night? Lots of applause in the room as Biden says, American democracy is not a reality show." Now I just wanted to feature that comment because people like Brian Stelter are the exact type of media hacks who have turned American politics into a reality show. And he says that after an event filled with hundreds of left-wing Democrats, in my view, essentially making a mockery of American democracy. But again, from the left-wing perspective, they're just praising it. Media runs this piece. Joe Biden's 9 best jokes from the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And here are some of the 9 incredible jokes. Joe Biden's jokes, well, what they really mean, are jokes that were written for Joe Biden that Joe Biden's delivering. And let's just say they were lackluster to say the least. Here's a great one.
At the same time, a lot of people say the Republican Party is too extreme, too divisive, too controlled by one person. They say that's not your father's Republican Party. Ronald Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear this wall down." Today's Republicans say, "Tear down Mickey Mouse's house." And pretty soon they'll be storming Cinderella's castle, you can be sure of it.
Oh, so funny. That was just hilarious. What a smashing success. And here's Brian Stelter claiming that American politics or American democracy isn't a reality show. I mean, maybe it's not a reality show, but it's certainly a very cringe, complete joke of a spectacle. And once again, Joe Biden, the great unifier, the guy who ran on uniting the country back together again, being a president not just for Democrats but also Republicans, with his next line of jokes.
It's the first time the president attended this dinner in 6 years. It's understandable. We had a horrible plague, followed by 2 years of COVID.
It's the first time a president attended this dinner in 6 years. It's understandable. We had a horrible plague followed by 2 years of the coup, implying that Donald Trump was the plague before the coup. I find that really interesting. And while I get it's a joke, usually jokes have to be grounded in some sort of reality. Yes, Donald Trump was the horrible plague that affected the country in such terrible plague-like ways. My immediate response to any left-winger is, name literally anything, like just one thing, that's better under Biden than it was under Donald Trump. 4 years of Donald Trump, I mean, we saw a record economy. My stock portfolio and my retirement fund was booming, I mean, making such incredible profits. And after a year and a half of Joe Biden, all the gains wiped away by inflation and the increased cost of living, not to mention the portfolio itself is declining. If Donald Trump was the plague, then please bring on the locust swarm. But once again, let's get back on topic. Joe Biden, bring on the comedy. Some absolutely hilarious stuff, folks.
Just imagine if my predecessor came to this dinner this year. Now that would really have been a real coup if that occurred.
Wow, hilarious. Honestly, the two only jokes that probably won't even get a chuckle out of you, that I guess are just acceptable, just kind of like pass for these two.
I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have. But Republicans seem to support one fellow, some guy named Brandon. He's having a really good year, and I'm kind of happy for him.
A little bit of self-deprecating humor, and really that's the only funny thing. I mean, let's talk about the timing. Donald Trump's not relevant right now, but of course, they just had to go the lazy route and just go after Donald Trump over and over again. What's relevant and what's actually funny is this clown who's currently serving as the President of the United States, and his track record of complete incompetence and failure. That would have been funny. There's a whole lot of jokes that would have actually been funny, but of course it's all off limits. Trevor Noah hit Joe Biden with one joke, and really it was just the Biden administration.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. Please be careful leaving tonight. We all know this administration doesn't handle evacuations well. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Of course, in relation to the Afghanistan withdrawal, and honestly, the joke was met with contempt. Like we've seen in the world of woke mainstream comedy, it can only go in one direction, and that's why this whole thing is a joke. The whole thing is an event filled with rich, elitist, pompous, delusional Democrats attacking Donald Trump and attacking Republicans. That's not funny, that's lazy, and that's cringe. Here's another example.
You don't. You know, I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
And while of course there's some laughs, the crowd is not in an uproar like when a Donald Trump joke is made, and you can sense discomfort in the crowd, and you can tell that some people are even snarling. The absolute audacity of these people to be making these jokes and going after Republicans and Joe Biden's predecessor, implying that things were worse then than they are now, just goes to show how totally tone deaf and out of touch these people really are. And when Joe Biden said earlier that it's the first time a president has attended this thing in the last 6 years, and he said that it's understandable, well, he was right, except for the wrong reasons. It's totally understandable. Who in their right mind would want to participate in this absolutely cringe event? To be laughing and joking and taking the stance of not only moral superiority but also performance superiority, with all the scandal revolving around this White House and this president and the awful track record on top of it. I mean, it's just a slap in the face for most Americans. But of course, the biggest joke of all when Joe Biden said,
But I'm not worried about the midterms. I'm not worried about them. We may end up with more partisan gridlock, but I'm confident we can work it out during my remaining 6 years in the presidency.
Joe Biden implying he has 6 more years as president. It's probably the funniest thing I've heard all year. This guy is done. And no amount of liberal, Hollywood elitist, New York elitist, circle jerk is ever going to change that. This presidency is done, failed, over, game over, an absolute lame duck. And the American voter is going to be the one who gets the last laugh. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share this video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned with the YouTube algorithm. And for non-subscribed viewers, I'm going to get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Folks, this clip right over here.
You do realize, Pete, a lot of black people feel like Democrats have kept no promises since they've been in office.
Really?
Yes. Reverend Allen said that a million times. I'm sure he'll be pressing you about that tomorrow.
Is going to haunt Democrats for a very, very long time. They've had years and years to listen, to pay attention. The trend has continued over the last couple of years. You see the exit polling data, you see voting data and voting patterns in general. The mass exodus of minority voters from the Democrat Party is real, and Democrats do what Democrats do best. They ignore it, they pretend like it doesn't exist, they convince themselves in the most deluded of fashion that it's not happening. But it is. How can you be surprised Pete Buttigieg responded, "Really? Oh, I didn't know that." As if the same reoccurring issues that the black community is going through, especially in Democrat cities, isn't getting worse on a year-by-year basis. Really, I thought we'd do so good. As these Democrats continue to live in their elitist bubble and continue to convince themselves that they're the only option minority voters have. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth, and the reality is, Democrats are losing minority voters, and not just black voters, at an increasing rate. The couple percentage points that we saw from 2016 to 2020 is one thing. Well, it's starting to expand as more and more people leave the Democrat Party, and it's black voters, it's Latino voters, and it's Asian American voters. And let's just say these delusional Democrats aren't taking it very well and are running away from this electoral nightmare, pretending it doesn't exist instead of tackling it head on. So we're going to do what we always do, folks. Let's look at public voter sentiment, let's look at the polling data, and let's continue to project this image that Democrats are absolutely screwed, and this may be the end of the Democrat Party, at least for a significant amount of time, if this continues. Let me show you guys what's going on, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. hidden to non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with a couple interesting segments. Here's one from Meet the Press, which is Chuck Todd's show. NBC News asks rural black voters if Democrats have done anything for them. The answer, F no, no.
Do you feel like the Democratic Party has done much for black people in the last couple years?
Taking us down through there, that's about it. Taking all our like the rest of them. They ain't gonna do nothing for us.
Has Biden and generally the Democratic Party, have they fulfilled promises that they've made over the last couple years?
To me, in a small town like this, it really doesn't matter who you have in office. The effect that we experience is the same. It don't matter if it's Biden, it don't matter if it's Trump, it don't matter if it's Obama or Clinton or Bush. It really doesn't matter. What we feel down here is exactly the same. You know, they can never even tell us who the president is, and we really still going to be exactly the same.
And this right over here, not only is it true, but this spells some very, very bad news for the Democrats. Actually, there's a relevant clip that I can play for you guys here, which will just pile on to what I'm trying to say, and it's once again from the same interview between Charlemagne the God on The Breakfast Club and Pete Buttigieg.
We need to talk about why there's really going to be 100% opposition on the Republican side to
we
this.
know why, though.
Well,
we don't expect it. Personally, I voted for Democrats. I don't expect anything Republicans. They let us know exactly who they are. They're not trying to pretend to be our friends.
But this helps Republicans too.
And so what Charlemagne the God says here is that for most black voters, there's no real distinction between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. It's not like you're getting anything from the Democrats, and so people view the Republicans with the sense of, at least we know who they are. They're not promising anything. It's more of the conservative, individualist point of view where you're kind of on your own. You get out of life what you put in, without all of the red tape and regulatory burden of Democrats. And so it seems as though a lot of people are looking at the Republican Party, this small government view, less government interference, more control over your own life, as a better option or more beneficial than heavy government burden, heavy government presence, and not really getting much out of it. Just a bad business deal, a bad deal that the Democrats are offering. Minority voters continue to vote for the Democrat Party. I mean, it's been decades upon decades, and they don't really have anything to show for it. The Democrats have been making the same promises for decades, each election cycle, over and over and over again, and they've delivered on pretty much nothing. And so this trend continues to expand. The New York Post also just ran with this piece right over here. Democrats hemorrhaging Black America support in U.S. cities. Blacks might be on the cusp of a second Great Migration, this time in the voting booth. Black America is wising up to Democrat failures, and the question is now whether or not it's too late, said conservative commentator Candace Owens, noting that every single metric is worse for Black America under a Biden presidency than under a Trump presidency. There are 30 million voting-age African Americans, and 92% of those who voted pulled the lever for Biden in 2020, but only 69% support him today, according to a new CNN survey, and a new Quinnipiac poll puts black support for the president at just 58%, with 20% strongly disapproving of his leadership. David Shaman Ortiz, 29, is among the growing list of disillusioned former Democrats. The biracial Brooklyn native, former city council staffer, and political activist marched with Black Lives Matter in 2020. This year, however, he protested outside the U.S. Capitol waving an F Biden flag, as well as a Let's Go Brandon flag and Trump 2024 flag, and the New York Post created this piece with Mr. Ortiz.
My name is David Louis Ortiz, better known as Shaman of New York City. Today, I'm here at the Department of Motor Vehicles to change my voter registration. The reason why I'm changing my voter registration today is because, unfortunately, the Democratic Party has led me wrong and has led my ancestors and the Black and brown communities of New York State, let alone of the United States, wrong.
The seed of Democrat discontent has been planted, and it continues to grow, and it's something that liberals are struggling very hard to cope with. Here's another piece. Liberals lash out at Van Jones for saying Biden is losing black voters because he didn't fulfill his promises and made their lives worse.
Well, I think that there's a disappointment factor that's set in. I think a lot of black voters feel like the black community gave the most during the election. It was a historic election, 2020, and have gotten the least. If you look at voting rights, so far, nothing. Police reform, so far, nothing. You look at some of the student loan stuff, very little. So what was motivating African-American voters, left, right, and otherwise, were that somebody was going to come to our rescue. The day-to-day reality for black folks hasn't improved. In fact, because of inflation and other things, gotten worse. And so you're starting to see that disappointment factor set in.
And while everything that Van Jones said was absolutely accurate, left-wing Twitter responded exactly how you might expect. Tara Dublin writes, Van Jones is wrong. The media has underreported Joe Biden's accomplishments because they have PTSD from TFG, which is that effing guy Donald Trump. Get a handle on your business, for F's sakes, mainstream media. Hashtag Biden. Same trend that we always see. Most of the people who were criticizing Van Jones were in fact white liberal women with Twitter check marks. Nothing screams a true connection to the true black community than elitist white liberal women tweeting from their iPhones or tweeting from their MacBook Pros sitting in a Starbucks in a posh community. They just don't get it. But the reality is they just don't want to get it. Van Jones said that their day-to-day lives are getting harder, and everyone who's angry and raging in the Twitter comments is attacking Van Jones for making that point. How does he know that life is getting harder? It's as if they're not paying attention. They don't want to pay attention to reality. Life is getting harder for literally everyone. Every day under the Biden administration has made everyone except for the extremely wealthy elite asset class and business owning class poorer. Our hard-earned dollars are becoming worth less and less and less. We are getting priced out of the real estate market, and the extremely wealthy elite that own everything and continue to buy up everything continue to get richer. That is the current reality under Joe Biden's presidency. That is what Democrat policies and left-wing policies have resulted for the average American, yet they just don't want to accept it. But again, it's just reality, and every single outlet is reporting the same thing. We have this piece from The Hill. Minorities are finding a new political home with the Republican Party. We have this little segment from CNN as well.
New polling suggests that black voters may be souring on Democrats. CNN's senior data reporter, Harry Entin, is here. Harry, great to see you.
Nice to see you.
So you have found that Biden's approval with black Americans is down. How far are we talking here?
I mean, it's really down. I mean, you can see it here. At the beginning of his term, he was at 87%. Look at where he is over the last few months. 67%. That's a 20-point drop. And not only is it a 20-point drop, that 67%, Barack Obama, the last Democratic president, never dropped below 75% in any Gallup poll. So this is lower than Barack Obama ever was. I think one way to sort of look at this, right, is the choice for president, and we go back since 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. Right now, if you go back to 2020, Joe Biden won black voters by 75 points. That was down from 2016, 2012, 2008. You really have to go all the way back to 2004. Now, you were asking before, why? What is driving this erosion? And this, I think, will give you the clue. It's black conservative voters. Black conservatives, look at that. 2016, Dems won by 58 points. Hillary Clinton, look at that. Just a 20-point margin for Joe Biden. All others, moderates and liberals, that 87-point margin held. It's black conservatives that are driving this.
A 20% drop from 87% approval to 67. It's just the reality. And one thing we know for sure, one thing we know that is true is liberal elitists and Twitter leftists have a very, very dysfunctional relationship with the concept of reality. They just don't want to accept it. But Twitter folk, Van Jones is absolutely correct. Democrats are hemorrhaging minority votes. The black community, the Hispanic community, and the Asian American community are leaving the Democrat Party like never before. And honestly, Republicans didn't even have to do anything. Democrats did it to themselves. In the end, good ideas and good policies will always win over cruddy ideas and cruddy policies. And that's exactly what we are seeing. That's also what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned, the YouTube algorithm hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I'm gonna thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
击退香港脚，7天有效，表美书。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The internet. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, but it's also a vicious place, and it's a very unforgiving place. That's probably why lefties can't handle it, and are so dead set on controlling and regulating it, because snapping out of their delusion and accepting reality isn't exactly a strong suit when it comes to the average Democrat voter. Let's focus on this concept that the internet is a very unforgiving place. When you write something on the internet, when you post post a video when you do something and release it for the world to see. It's permanent. It's there forever, forever and ever and ever. Even if you delete it, somebody else picked it up, it's archived. It's essentially never going away, especially not if you're a public figure. For instance, Kim Kardashian's tape with Mr. Ray J isn't going anywhere ever. Those poor kids, but essentially you get what I'm trying to say here. And so here's the idea that I'm getting at. When you do something or when you say something, and especially if you say something that isn't exactly intelligent, well then it's going to live forever and it's going to be used against you whenever you try to pick a fight. And this is a lesson that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is kind of learning the hard way after she tried going after Elon Musk, after Elon embarrassed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez without really dignifying much of what she said, but rather by using her own tactics and her own words against her. AOC then swiftly got ratioed and is now trending at the top of the Twitter trending tab for essentially all of the wrong reasons. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. It's a beautiful time to be alive. Twitter is finally fun again. With Elon Musk making Twitter great again. We got some stuff to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's start off with backstory. What exactly sparked this situation? What initiated this interaction between Elon Musk and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Well, in true Elon fashion, it all started with a meme. Elon Musk tweeted this right over here. The political spectrum in 2008. The conservative planted firmly on the right, the center, a little stick man identified as me, which we could view as Elon Musk in this case, and my fellow liberal on the left, signaling that Elon Musk was closer to a liberal than he was a conservative in 2008. 2012, my fellow liberal starts darting to the far left of the spectrum, and the center of the spectrum gets closer to Elon Musk. 2021, conservative still stands firmly on the right. Elon Musk is then center-right somehow, even though he has not changed position, and the woke progressive is so far left on the political spectrum that the entire political spectrum has sort of rearranged itself, landing regular center-left people on the right. This meme essentially depicts the Liberal Hive Mind YouTube channel. This, folks, is how it all started. This was the simple tweet from Elon Musk that started it all. There was also this one right over here, where Elon says the far left hates everyone, including themselves. But I'm no fan of the far right either. Let's have less hate and more love. And of course, when he did the podcast with the boys at the Babylon Bee, Elon's on the record saying this about wokeness.
I think The Onion has done some extremely funny stuff over time. It just seems to have been, in recent years, somewhat affected by the woke mind virus. So that just makes everything less funny. Yeah. Woke mind virus is a world without humor.
Why do you think wokeness is so destructive?
It is a prevalent mind virus and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization. I mean, generally, I think we should be aiming for like a positive society, and that it should be okay to be humorous. Like we should like wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal, which is not cool. At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue.
And everything that Elon Musk is saying here is certified fact. And that right there is where the problem lies, at least for these lefties. And especially for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who immediately took to Twitter to go after Elon Musk. AOC writes on Twitter, tired to have to collectively stress about what explosion of hate crimes is happening because some billionaire with an ego problem unilaterally controls a massive communication platform and skews it because Tucker Carlson or Peter Thiel took him to dinner and made him feel special. Fundamentally misunderstanding what's going on right now with Elon's purchase. This idea that Elon Musk has an ego problem and wants to unilaterally control a massive communication platform is the exact opposite of what's happening. The entire point is that Elon Musk doesn't want to control communication on Twitter, and of course, in perfect AOC fashion, somehow Tucker Carlson's name makes it to the list, mentioning some sort of conspiracy between Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk to skew Twitter to the right. I mean, she's not even paying attention. An absolutely absurd tweet to say the least, which is why Elon Musk didn't exactly take it seriously. Here's what he responded with: "Stop hitting on me. I'm really shy." Many people unaware of what Elon Musk is referring to, but of course he's making a reference to this tweet right over here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez receives a brutal reality check after claiming GOP critics are mad that they can't date me and have deranged sexual frustrations. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her infamous statement that anybody on the GOP who criticizes her really just wants to date her and has some sort of sexual frustration and is just angry that they can't get with the extremely desirable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Elon Musk essentially alluding to the fact that any criticism lobbed in his direction must mean that AOC just really wants to date him. She has some sort of sexual frustration, is just not being satisfied by her current mate. And what she really wants is Elon Musk. And of course, Twitter erupted with hashtag AOC loves Elon, shooting up to the top of the trending tab with over 40,000 tweets, and the memes were just plenty. Poor Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now when she says anything, now when she lobs any criticism, or gets into any Twitter battle with anyone, her previous tweets and statements will always come back to haunt her. Whether it's claiming that Ted Cruz tried to have her murdered, with this meme from Super Troopers living in infamy.
Here's your word. Here's your word. I was murdered. You were murdered. Okay.
To the claim that any criticism really is just deep-rooted sexual frustration. At the end of the day, the fact of the matter is, no matter what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, she is just not taken seriously. Look, I'm gonna be fair and I'm gonna say it. Some of the stuff that AOC says in certain cases is actually correct, and there should at least be a discussion on certain reforms in society. Do I think she goes too far, and do I think that the majority of what she says is completely ridiculous? Absolutely. But a broken clock is right twice a day. Here's the thing. Even when AOC is correct and makes a good point, nobody takes it seriously because the majority, the bulk of her work is nothing but sheer nonsense, and it totally overshadows everything else. Just as expected, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez once again proves that she is not a serious person by being on the anti-free speech side and getting triggered by Elon Musk buying a social platform with the intention of making it politically neutral and turning it into a free speech platform. And of course, the irony dawns on me, the fact that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez literally helped Elon Musk buy Twitter because she owns a Tesla. And of course, the irony that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the person that keeps telling us that we have only 9 years to live until the planet's over, it's the apocalypse, if we don't save the planet, is angry at the one man who's actually doing something about it on a large scale. She is fundamentally not a serious person, not a serious politician. And once again, she got absolutely ratioed on Twitter. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one.
Read 天后幸福学，周周抽平安经。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Folks, this right here is panic, it's hopium, whatever you want to call it. What it is desperation, as Democrats are forced to do what they absolutely loathe, what they avoid at all costs, and that is face reality. Folks, Nancy Pelosi's most recent presser was so incredibly telling. They just don't want to accept reality. They don't want to accept the current state of the economy, their political standing. They would rather continue lying to the American people, lying to themselves. As the meme goes, the building is burning around them and they're sitting there saying this is fine. But it's not, and deep down inside they know it, because even their own voters are giving them a serious reality check. And so that's what we're going to focus on for this video, a much needed reality check for the Democrats for Nancy Pelosi. Let me show you guys exactly what she said in her most recent presser. Let's cover what voters are saying on the ground, even what CNN analysts are saying, because surprise to absolutely no one, it's still incredibly dismal from a Democrat outlook. And of course, I'll keep you guys updated on all of it. 2022 is right around the corner, and it continues to get better. We got some stuff to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this. Nancy Pelosi calls economic shrinkage an aberration and dodges questions about midterm elections. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat from California, called the latest bad report on the economy an aberration and dodged a reporter's question about how it would affect the midterm election. Pelosi made the comments during her media briefing on Friday when asked about a report that the economy had shrunk by 1.4% in the first quarter of 2022, to the surprise of many economists. Is this going to have any effect on the 2022 election come November? In the midterms, asked the reporter. Nancy Pelosi responded with, well, I think this is an aberration. There are plenty of other statistics and analyses that have said that this is an aberration, and there are many other factors that show that we have growth in our near future, she continued. But what we're worried about is what it means to the kitchen table again, not to the election, but to the kitchen table of America's working families. And man, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack in that specific statement. First off, there are plenty of other statistics and analyses to suggest that this is just an aberration and that there's growth in the near future. Don't you find it funny how Democrats always have statistics and studies and Nobel laureates to back up their ridiculous claims? The Hunter Biden laptop is just Russian disinformation a bunch of national security experts tell us. Inflation isn't here to stay, it's just an aberration, it's just seasonal, it's transitory. Nobel laureate economists keep telling us in studies. Yet it's almost always total BS. And following up with the second part of Nancy Pelosi's statement, what we're worried about is what it means to kitchen table, again, not to the election, but to kitchen table issues for America's working families. I mean, the statement within itself is a total contradiction. What we're really focused on is kitchen table issues. Yet for the last year and a half, as everything has gone to crap under Joe Biden's leadership, and of course Nancy Pelosi's leadership, the Democrats have done absolutely nothing except deny the reality with every single one of these kitchen table issues. We're focused on kitchen table issues, but if you ask me about kitchen table issues, what our solutions are to inflation, the economy, the border, public safety, you name it, well, we will deny the crises, we will deny the reality that the economy is going to the gutter, we will completely ignore inflation, we will pretend as if it's a little blip, an aberration, because we're just so focused on these important kitchen table issues that American citizens care about. I mean, you guys see the irony, right? You see the hypocrisy. Democrats don't care about kitchen table issues, they just use it as a political slogan. Kitchen table this, kitchen table that. Joe Biden will go on some sort of deep, long-lost memory that he doesn't even have. I mean, he doesn't even have the ability to hold a memory, it seems, about his family and growing up in Scranton, and how inflation and the price of gas mattered to his family. Kitchen table issue Joe. Yet when asked about inflation, he states the questions are not relevant, or that Peter Doocy is somehow a stupid son of a bee for even asking the question in the first place. Jen Psaki will then take to the podium and completely disregard and dismiss all of these issues. And when questioned about the unprecedented crime spike of 2021 following and continuing in 2022, she also openly mocks it. Democrats don't care about kitchen table issues. They say they do, yet they deny the reality of every single one of these issues when they're in positions of leadership. I mean, you gotta ask the same question. If everything that is currently happening under Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Kamala Harris's watch is happening under Donald Trump's second term, do you think that it'd just be an aberration or seasonal or transitory? Well, you know the answer to that. And you also know the answer as to why Nancy Pelosi refused to talk about the midterms. Because the idea here is that the worst was behind Joe Biden and the Democrats. I mean, that's basically what they've been saying after August 2021, after the fall of Afghanistan. It's just a little blip. Joe Biden's gonna return back to normal in his approval rating. Yet things continue to go wrong one after another. It continues to get worse and worse and worse as Joe Biden remains at rock bottom, bringing the Democrats with him. Well, right before the 2022 election, Democrats were hoping for some good news. And then it turns out that it seems as though we're headed towards an economic recession, even post-pandemic, when growth and GDP numbers are supposed to be through the roof. As the economy gets rolling again, the economy shrunk by 1.4% in the first quarter of 2022, which even CNN is now admitting is a disastrous day for the Democrats' 2022 chances. This analysis comes from Chris Chris Cillizza, CNN's editor-at-large and total partisan left-wing hack. Even he admits that it's a huge blow to the Democrats' chances. The news that the U.S. economy unexpectedly shrank over the first quarter of the year is an absolute body blow to the Democrats already reeling amid growing economic concerns ahead of the 2022 midterm election. The country's gross domestic product fell at an annualized rate of 1.4% between January to March, a stunning reversal from the 6.9% GDP growth that the U.S. recorded in the final quarter of 2021. Once again, Joe Biden breaking records in all of the wrong ways. From one quarter to the next, going from growth of 6.9% to a negative reduction of 1.4% in just a couple months is absolutely astounding. Just when you think Joe Biden cannot hit lower lows, cannot outdo himself in all the wrong ways, he proves you wrong. And once again, as economic concerns and consumer concerns continue to grow to some of the most negative levels we have seen in decades, Democrats, of course, are operating in an alternate reality, avoiding the hard truth and pushing their "this is fine" political propaganda. Addressing recession fears on Thursday, President Joe Biden said, "Well, I'm not concerned about recession. I mean, you're always concerned about recession, but the GDP, fell to 1.4%, as incoherent as ever." While Germany's Deutsche Bank is expecting a recession in 2023, and markets are shaving off billions. Don't worry, folks, because economic expert and incredible genius Joe Biden says he's not worried about recession. That probably means you should be worried about a recession. It's the same pattern over and over again. Complete denial, complete delusion, a total lack of compassion and empathy for regular Americans. They talk a whole lot about the middle class and middle class concerns, but really all they do is grift on these concerns. Use all the buzzwords to make themselves seem as if they're compassionate, but in reality, they just don't give a damn. And when this inevitable Biden recession finally hits, Joe Biden is probably going to do two things. First, he's going to blame Donald Trump, probably something to the effect of blaming his predecessor's poor response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the lingering effects. And then he's probably going to try to rewrite history, where he's currently on the record saying he has no fear of recession. Once it finally hits, he'll probably take the stance that, well, he's been warning you of recession for the last 2 years. An absolute liar, an absolute grifter. These people must be replaced ASAP. But of course, that's what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
爸爸快点好。
感冒用福茂，有效又温和。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. 2022 is shaping up to be such an incredible year. Cancel culture is slowly dying, the political and cultural pendulum is starting to shift in the right direction. It seems as though good is winning over evil. But possibly the best part of 2022 is what's happening to these massive mainstream institutions. 2022 is seemingly the year of cleaning house. Discovery is talking about buying CNN and getting rid of all these left-wing partisan anchors, basically cleaning house, firing characters like Brian Stelter and other left-wing political hacks. And now it seems as though Elon Musk is taking it to the next level with talks of completely dismantling the executive leadership at Twitter, with two names at the top of the list of the chopping block being anti-free speech CEO Parag Agrawal, which from what we understand, Elon Musk already has a CEO replacement in mind. And next on the list, Vijaya Gadde, known as Twitter's chief censor, Twitter's top legal counsel who showed up with Jack Dorsey on Joe Rogan's podcast, basically the woman who's in charge of Twitter's trust and safety team, the team whose job it's been to crack down on conservatives, the team that censored the Hunter Biden scandal, the list goes on and on. Well, we now have reports that she is done, fired, along with Mr. Parag Agrawal, and so this Elon Musk Twitter buyout continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. It keeps on getting better, and let me show you guys exactly what's going on. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so fittingly, this is being reported by the New York Post, which is obviously the outlet that broke the Hunter Biden laptop scandal story and was censored by Mrs. Vijaya Gadde and her team at Twitter. Twitter's quote chief censor, making $17 million a year, could be fired by Elon Musk. Twitter's chief lawyer, seen as the social network's top advocate for censoring left-wing conservatives, is among the likely paid executives to lose their job if Elon Musk completes his takeover of the company. Vijaya Gadde, who earned $17 million last year as Twitter's top legal counsel, could be on the chopping block as Musk is reportedly planning to slash jobs and reduce executive pay as he looks to secure financing for his Twitter bid. After disclosing plans to acquire the company earlier this month, Musk expressed no confidence in Twitter's current management, which doesn't bode well for their future once he takes the helm later this year. Nevertheless, Gadde also stands to win a nice consolation prize if she is fired, a severance package worth $12.5 million that includes the accelerated vesting of a trove of Twitter shares she has accrued. The 48-year-old Gadde, who reportedly broke down in tears when addressing colleagues about the future of Twitter, has become a lightning rod for controversy in recent days due to in no small part to Musk himself, who tweeted a meme that painted her as oblivious to a quote liberal bias at Twitter. This is the tweet right over here, showing Tim Pool giving an example of Twitter's left-wing bias, her responding with, "We have to take the context into consideration." Tim Pool responding, "Twitter's interpretation of the context is affected by their left-wing bias," her responding with, "I would need to see an explanation of that," and the circle goes on and on and on, repeating itself, which I'm sure is very clear to most of you guys who have seen that interview or seen that podcast on the Joe Rogan Experience. And this news comes with all the stories that are reporting that Elon Musk told the banks that he is working with that he plans to slash pay of Twitter executives, charge for tweets, and has a new CEO lined up. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Elon Musk has been very critical of Mrs. Vijaya, and with Elon Musk currently tasked with making Twitter more profitable, he's going to have to cut pay. And he's not going to be cutting pay for people at the bottom of the Twitter pyramid. He is going directly for the overpaid, incompetent leadership, the top executives, like Mrs. Vijaya Gadde, who's being paid $17 million in a single year for doing nothing but bringing scandal and controversy to the platform, making it a worse social platform, and being largely in charge of the mass exodus at Twitter that we have seen over the last couple of years. Mrs. Vijaya Gadde is at the top of the Twitter trust and safety team. That means that it was her final decision to have Donald Trump banned from the platform. It was her decision to go after the Babylon Bee, her decision to censor the Hunter Biden story. The list goes on and on and on. She is at the nucleus of everything bad that's going on at Twitter. Everything. The little fact check labels and censored tweets that seem to only ever affect conservatives. The banning of soccer moms for having an opinion that contradicts the mainstream leftist narrative. This individual was being paid $17 million a year to be an online social media tyrant, and it seems as though she is going to be first on the chopping block. And the response is, of course, as predictable as ever. In response to the flood of online criticism directed at Gadde earlier this week, another top Twitter executive defended her and accused Elon Musk of misogyny. Lara Cohen, Twitter's global head of partners, also shared messages of support for Leslie Berland, the company's chief marketing officer, who was caught in leaked audio suggesting that Musk's plan for free speech put them in a, quote, very difficult position. Color me shocked that people are coming for two of our prominent female executives on day one of this thing. She also shared a tweet attacking Missouri Senator Josh Hawley for pointing out that the tearful Gadde was, quote, the same person who led the charge to censor the Hunter Biden laptop reporting. Says it all. The anti-conservative bias, the anti-free speech policies, the scandal, the controversy. Of course, none of that is relevant. Democrats view everything through tunnel vision and their identity goggles. It must just be misogyny. You know, to a certain extent, I do actually think that gender does play a role. From my experience, at least, and in some of the data that I've seen, it does seem as though across the political spectrum, from Republican to Democrat and also from male to female, the propensity to support online censorship, or as some people call it, reforming free speech, it does seem that women are more open to take an anti-free speech stance. And you know what? That's kind of a problem for a place like Twitter. Is that misogyny? I don't think so. But I do believe that gender to a certain extent plays a role in this whole thing. And it's probably a big reason why these two specific individuals are on the chopping block almost immediately, on day one, as Mrs. Cohen pointed out. But the reason I know it's not misogyny is due to this report right over here. Elon Musk has reportedly lined up a new Twitter CEO and shared ideas for monetizing tweets. It's not about gender because Mr. Parag Agrawal is also on the chopping block. The new CEO of Twitter is already going to be out the door, it seems, less than a year since he's assumed the position. And once again, it's not about race, it's not about identity, it's not about gender. It's about his free speech stance, which we've covered a million times before.
Our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation. And our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kinds of things that we we do to go about this is to focus less on thinking about free speech, thinking about how the times have changed.
But again, folks, it's good versus evil. It is a battle for our rights to be able to speak freely on the internet. And when you are in such an important battle, you must take no prisoners. And that's exactly what Elon Musk is doing, and that's exactly why the left is panicking. Speaking of the left panicking and leftist Twitter panicking, leftist Twitter workers losing it over a-hole Elon Musk buying the company, alleged internal messages show we're all going through the 5 stages of grief. I don't care what stages of grief you are going through. If you are on the anti-free speech side, well then I have no sympathy for you, whether it's the mental trauma that you're worried about going through by having a new boss who seems to believe in the First Amendment, or whether you're losing your job because you're Twitter's top censor who has a track record of incredibly inappropriate left-wing bias censorship, or whether you're the former CEO, Mr. Parag Agrawal, who once again adopts an anti-free speech stance. Whatever it is, you now have a new boss at Twitter, and he is cleaning house and making the world a better place. And you're standing in the way, therefore you must go. It's basically that simple, folks. And honestly, it's a truly beautiful thing. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work, though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
力竭为维生素 D3D， 关键时刻保护力罩得住。7-Eleven 康士美及各大通路与电商热销中。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, of course, no surprise to anybody, this president continues to be an absolute disgrace. The dishonesty when it comes to the basic operations of this White House is truly next level. It's the type of stuff that you'd expect from tyrannical regimes in the eastern part of the world, the tight control, pushing of narratives and propaganda, refusing to answer basic questions, and just the lack of presence of this president in general. The guy just doesn't make himself available when it comes to answering basic questions that are important to the American people, and frankly, he seems to show contempt to that concept in general. From Joe Biden's perspective and from the Biden administration's perspective, anything that isn't tightly controlled, anything that isn't pushing their direct, dishonest propaganda narrative is somehow not relevant or to be avoided at all cost. And we see this with hot mic moments. Maybe 6 or 8 months ago, as inflation started to rage, as Joe Biden's aides and handlers were doing what they do best, shoving press out of the room, Peter Doocy from Fox News tried asking the president a question on his way out of the room, asking the president what his plan was to tackle inflation, and Joe Biden once again showing contempt for the #1 issue with the American public by responding to Peter Doocy, calling him a stupid son of a bee below his breath, which was caught on hot mic. Well, here we go again, we got another hot mic moment. Joe Biden showing just how much of a dishonest figure he truly is, and it really exposes just how this White House is operating. It's their narrative, or it's quote just not relevant. Let me show you guys exactly what he said, and let's continue to expose this presidency. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here it is. Here's another hot mic moment from the president. Quote, "They never ask relevant questions." Joe Biden caught on hot mic as handlers shoo away reporters. Now, it's very hard to hear what he's saying, but if you increase the audio and wear a headset and listen very, very carefully, he claims they never ask relevant questions. And what Joe Biden means by this is they never ask questions that make him look good. They never ask questions that promote his preferred narrative. We all remember, once again, a couple months ago, it might have been even a year at this point, as Joe Biden was getting terrible grades on the economy, the White House had an emergency meeting with massive media executives, essentially urging them and complaining that he wasn't getting preferred economic coverage. The whole thing seemed to be some sort of shadowy, corrupt meeting with top executives to try to closely control the narrative to be beneficial to the Democrats and Joe Biden. And this is exactly what they want. Any real questions or any scrutiny, anything covering reality, is quote not relevant to this White House. The only thing that is relevant to this White House, it seems, is to continue their pattern of dishonesty, their pattern of lying, and promoting some sort of false alternative reality that the American people are just not experiencing. experiencing. A great example of this is Joe Biden's stellar track record on the economy, as he continues to be severely underwater when it comes to his economic approval rating, down in the dumps in the 20s and the 30%, of course depending on the poll, but pretty much averaging in the 30s. Joe Biden over the last about a year and a half has tried to convince you that he is the greatest economic president ever, the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's been bragging and bragging and bragging about historic growth numbers, historic job numbers, but of course what we know, as we've covered a million times and frankly as we've proven, those aren't Joe Biden's job numbers. Those are just people going back to work. That's the economy starting to roll again. That's not growth. That's not job creation. That's the end of pandemic restrictions and people being furloughed due to the pandemic. And even now, a year and 4 months into Joe Biden's presidency, the guy is so disconnected from the numbers that he continues to push this dishonest propaganda garbage. Biden brags, "I think we're seeing enormous growth in the country."
I think what you're seeing is enormous growth in the country that was affected by everything from COVID and the COVID blockages that occurred along the way.
Joe Biden is sticking to the script, sticking to this dishonest script that he's the greatest economic president ever, and he continues to celebrate the economy regardless of how bad the numbers are. When wages are going down in respect to inflation, Joe Biden cherry picks the data and only looks specifically at wages going up and doesn't contrast them to inflation. It says wages are going up. When quarterly or monthly jobs reports come out, 179,000 jobs created. Joe Biden takes credit and says we've created nearly 200,000 jobs and completely omits the key fact that he probably missed expectations by hundreds upon hundreds of thousands. And here's the same thing Joe Biden claims. "We are seeing just incredible growth in Biden's economy. Enormous growth," is the quote. But the reality is, the US economy shrank in the first quarter. US GDP fell at 1.4% pace to start the year as pandemic recovery takes a hit. Gross domestic product unexpectedly declined at 1.4% annualized pace in the first quarter, marking an abrupt reversal for an economy coming off of its best performance since 1984, the Commerce Department reported on Thursday. The negative growth rate missed even the subdued Dow Jones estimate of a 1% gain for the quarter, but the initial estimate for Q1 was the worst since the pandemic-induced recession in 2020. Joe Biden has been trying to ride this wave as if he's the greatest thing to ever happen to the economy, but the only wave that he was riding for a very short period of time was the inevitable economic recovery post-pandemic. These numbers put it all into perspective. This is real GDP percentage change from preceding quarter. These two negative bars that you see right over here in quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 2020 is when the global pandemic hit and the economy went into a forced recession. Quarter 3 right over here is when the recovery started. That was when Donald Trump was president and people were talking about a V-shaped recovery. People were going back to work, businesses were starting to open up, states were starting to open up, and then the effects lingered and continued into Joe Biden's first year in 2021, to be expected. But only 1 year, Joe Biden has already managed to screw the entire thing up, and the economy is now starting to contract in 2022. President Joe Biden keeps saying that this is the greatest economy in American history, and he wants you to be convinced that it's his doing, but the reality is, since Joe Biden took office, the economy has been completely stagnant. Here's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Joe Biden took office in 2021. The first couple of months he had basically no impact. I mean, that's just the lingering effect of Donald Trump's presidency. As you guys can see, the V-shaped recovery, and essentially over the last 12 months, Joe Biden's economy has been nothing but stagnant, a straight flat line. And we could essentially see that across every market. The NASDAQ, same thing. And we can see that across all markets. The NASDAQ, which I believe has a lot of tech companies, in 2021, they were showing the greatest profits ever, as tech companies were booming during the pandemic. But again, what we're seeing as we head into 2021 is a massive retraction. The same thing in the S&P 500. Gains in 2021, but for the most part stagnant and now in decline. The reality is, Biden's economy is in decline, and it seems as though pretty soon we're going to be going from saying Biden's economy to Biden's recession, as markets continue to stagnate, and now we're even seeing markets show massive losses. People's portfolios are taking a massive hit, and then on top of that, factor in that inflation is still continuing to get worse and worse and worse, with every month beating out the month prior. The numbers continue to get worse, and interest rates are about to spike. The reality is terrible for this administration. This is why they continue to lie. This is why they don't want to answer questions honestly. Questions aren't relevant if they're based in reality and the truth that American people are feeling. I'm sure most of you guys have been building up birthday retirement fund. And let me ask you a very simple question. During Joe Biden's historic economy, has your retirement fund grown, or is it continuing to decline? Mine has been declining significantly over the last couple of years. During the Trump years, it was nothing but booming. I think every year except for 2018, I was seeing the best gains I have ever seen. And ever since Joe Biden took office, I have been losing money consistently, either stagnant or losing. I am not seeing this booming Biden economy that the Biden administration is so keen on keeping as the media narrative, as they avoid hard questions and avoid the hard truth. The reality is, it's nothing but a continuation of a consistent track record of failure for this administration, and they refuse to own up, they refuse to take responsibility, and refuse to be honest with the American people. All I know is I am bracing for one thing: the Biden recession, and I feel it right around the corner. This administration has nothing but a track record of absolute failure. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I have this feeling that a lot of people are going to be eating their words pretty soon. You know, there's a whole lot of talking heads, a whole lot of lefty partisans in the media, on Twitter, who have been not only defending Joe Biden, but who have been essentially exonerated. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing, no evidence to suggest that Joe Biden is 10% the big guy. There's no evidence of any crime or any wrongdoing or anything even remotely close to an ethical violation, and especially not during the time where Joe Biden was in office, or Joe Biden was the vice president under Barack Obama during 8 years. People keep making these definitive statements in order to protect and defend Joe Biden every single time new revelations and new information comes out. But how long is that going to be sustainable? You know, there's two completely opposite situations here. With Donald Trump, all the scandal, the accusations, everything that was being alleged, the more time went by, the more it was obvious that they had absolutely nothing, that most of the information was salacious, phony, and connected to Hillary Clinton and the DNC, the more it was obvious that Donald Trump was innocent. By the time Robert Mueller had his Senate hearing, it was obviously a nothing burger. However, the exact opposite is true when it comes to Hillary Clinton, or the Clinton crime family, and the Bidens, or of course the Biden crime family. There is more and more and more evidence slowly trickling in that directly points to them and points to wrongdoing. And the biggest thing right now is the contradictions. There's a lot of people in the media who are going to be eating their words. Their statements won't be aging very well. And this is especially true for Joe Biden, who claimed on countless occasions the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. He had no knowledge of his son Hunter's business dealings, or that he never met with any of Hunter Biden's business associates. Well, those exact statements continue to be proven as outright lies as the Biden crime family continues to be exposed. We got some more information here, folks, suggesting that Joe Biden, Mr. 10% the big guy, was a whole lot more involved with his son Hunter's business dealings. And I mean a whole lot more involved than he's letting on. Let me show you guys exactly what we have here, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this bombshell right over here. Hunter Biden's business partner visited the White House 27 times during Obama-Biden era. Logs show that Hunter Biden's business partner, Eric Trurin, visited the White House 27 times during the Obama-Biden era. On Tuesday, Fox News reported that Hunter Biden's longtime business partner, Mr. Eric Trurin, had visited the White House at least 8 times in 2016, bringing his total number of visits during the Obama-Biden era to 27. During his visits, Trurin met with a number of Biden staffers, as well as Biden himself in 2010. Speaking at the Teacher of the Year event at the White House on Wednesday, President Joe Biden suggested the reason he got into politics was to prevent corruption. The greatest sin that anyone can commit is the abuse. How we covered this in our video the other day. Mr. Eric Trurin's visits to the White House, in addition to revelations regarding Hunter Biden's business dealings highlighted in the now infamous laptop scandal, have led many to ask for a full-fledged investigation into the Biden family. It's increasingly obvious that Hunter Biden's business revolved around providing access to his father and the highest levers of power. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, told the New York Post foremost, it reeks of pay to play. Now, I find that real interesting. Joe Biden, who claims to have absolutely no knowledge, no involvement whatsoever with any of Hunter Biden's business dealings or any of Hunter Biden's business partners, had reason for 27 meetings with one individual alone involving his office. Does that seem sketchy to you? And the question once again is, why the dishonesty? If Joe Biden's office never did anything wrong, if Joe Biden never abused his position as vice president, then why would he be running away from this? If he was innocent, wouldn't he just say that, yep, I've been with Hunter Biden's associates multiple times, 27 times in fact with one of his main partners, and nothing questionable was ever done? If Joe Biden was so deeply involved with Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden's associates, and even powerful foreign individuals, as we've highlighted many times and as we see in all the pictures, Joe Biden clearly had a direct involvement, or at least was part of the clique. Well, if he hadn't done anything wrong, then what is he running away from? And why always the contradiction? It's the same kind of contradiction that we see from these dishonest Democrats over and over again. Here's a great example. During the 2021 election in the state of Virginia, of course, the biggest issue was critical race theory, CRT, and Democrats had a very conflicting defense. They kept advocating that CRT was really just racial justice, teaching history. There's nothing corrosive or controversial about a CRT-focused curriculum, while at the same time essentially contradicting that fact by saying, oh, well, CRT is just a very, very fringe college-level class that doesn't actually exist in K-12. Well, which one is it? Is it something that doesn't exist and that's something that should be avoided politically, or is it something that should be defended? It's a clear contradiction. And now we are seeing the exact same thing with Biden's defense, with yet again another connection, as Hunter Biden and Jim Biden's bank records are currently being subpoenaed, and there is possibly a connection during the time that Joe Biden was in office. Take a look at this.
So, Catherine, could any of this information in any way implicate President Biden?
I don't want to speculate on the standing of this investigation, but I just want to lay out what the White House position is and what we know through our own reporting here at CBS News. Recently, the White House Chief of Staff was asked about this issue, and he said that the president felt that his family had done the right thing, but then also added that these were the actions of Hunter Biden and James Biden, the president's brother, and that these were private matters and that President Biden was not involved. What we know through our reporting here at CBS News is that there was another subpoena that was sent out to one of the major banks here in the United States, and it was seeking not only Hunter Biden's records, his former business partners, but also the records of the president's brother, James Biden. And these records went back to 2014, and the reason that timing matters is that it spans a period when Joe Biden was the vice president.
Catherine Herridge, one of the top investigative reporters, points out the clear contradiction in Joe Biden's defense. First off, Joe Biden claims that everything was kosher, everything was done properly, nothing illegal to see here, folks, while simultaneously saying, well, everything that does happen and anything that comes out, well, that's Hunter Biden and Jim Biden's business dealings, and Joe Biden wasn't involved. So which one is it? Is it clean, kosher, and everything was done properly and ethically, everything was done legally, or is there some sketchy stuff that's going on and Joe Biden is trying to distance himself from it? And as Catherine Herridge points out, some sketchy stuff that was happening in 2014 when Joe Biden was still the vice president of the United States, still serving as theoretically the second most powerful person in the US government. Which one is it? Because you can't have it both ways. And the evidence just continues to mount. Initially, it was Tony Bobulinski, Hunter Biden's former business partner, who is on the record claiming two specific things. First off, that he met with Joe Biden to discuss a business deal with the Chinese. And secondly, that he claims 1,000% that Joe Biden is in fact the big guy. That is a direct connection with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden's business associate, Tony Bobulinski, showing involvement in this pay-to-play scheme. Well, now we have 27 meetings with Mr. Druid, and once again it raises very serious questions in connection to Joe's missing millions, this headline that I showed you guys the other day. Exclusive, Joe's missing millions. Financial records reveal Biden had $5.2 million in unexplained income, as emails show he paid Hunter's legal bills for $1 megabucks Chinese deal and was tapped as, quote, the big guy to get 10% cut in another. Well, very interestingly, the number pops up again. Fager Baker Daniels, Mr. Eric D. Druid, Rosemont Seneca Advisors, client Robert Hunter Biden, showing Hunter Biden billing for over $68,000 for, quote, quote restructuring is seen in a statement of his account. And massive numbers being continuously billed, as you see over here, for $82,000, $28,000, $21,000. For what? Crackhead Hunter Biden just billing tens of thousands of dollars over and over again, in the end amounting to millions of dollars, seemingly out of nowhere with no explanation as to where the money's coming from, with all in connection to Mr. Eric Druid. And then all of a sudden, magically, Joe Biden himself is declaring millions upon millions of dollars in annual income. And the biggest question of all, Joe Biden's 2019 disclosure to the Office of Government Ethics shows he received millions of dollars through his company, Celtic Capri Corp, but fails to account for all of the $16.5 million shown in his tax filings. He's claiming personal annual income of $16.5 million with millions of dollars unaccounted for. It just doesn't make sense, and it's the same names over and over again that pop up. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and Mr. Eric Druid, who Joe Biden met with while he was vice president 27 times through his office. Either him personally, I don't know about you guys, but the whole thing just reeks. It smells to the high heavens. A deep stench of corruption. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Jim Biden. Nobody knows what they do, nobody knows what skills they provide, other than the fact that they're all connected to Joe Biden, who happens to be in an incredible position of power, and they're all raking in millions upon millions of dollars, with massive, unexplainable sums of money being billed through various organizations. I don't know about you guys, but it almost seems like a money laundering scheme, and none of it looks legit to me. But considering how it continues to get worse for the Bidens, and more information and more revelations continue to bubble to the surface, I have a feeling eventually this whole thing is going to cave in on the Biden crime family, and the true nature of this corruption will inevitably be exposed. And hopefully the GOP in 2022 stands by their claims and they launch an official investigation into this potential pay-for-play scheme. It's gotta happen, folks. These GOP members need to prove themselves, because so far they've been all bark and no bite. 2022 has to be the year of accountability. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
健达缤纷乐，找一句属于你的好心情。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. When are they going to learn? Folks, don't you just love it when you got the data to back up your claims? When you've been making predictions for years, but you've never really had the data. You've never had the numbers to prove it. And then finally it comes out that you were, in fact, absolutely correct. Folks, cancel culture is done. For too long, an extremely small, fringe minority have ruled with a very loud voice. Companies have caved, they've bent the knee, they've obeyed the unhinged, out of control woke mob, given in to the intimidation tactics. And for what? To tank into absolute irrelevance? To lose millions upon millions of dollars, and in some cases billions of dollars in market cap? In some situations, to even have to close up shop or be forced into such a poor financial state where you are forced to have to fire people, or even in some cases close entire departments. This is what we have seen with companies that have bowed down, that have genuflected to woke cancel culture and intimidation. Well, folks, the cultural pendulum continues to swing. It's been swinging for a couple years now, but I'm telling you, we are almost there.
Incredible.
We just need to be a little bit more patient. The culture is shifting. You can't deny reality. You cannot deny the facts. Cancel culture almost doesn't even really exist. In fact, it literally plays out in the exact opposite way intended by lefties. They tried to cancel Goya Foods, and Goya saw record sales. We know the idea of get woke, go broke, and I've been saying the opposite is true. Get based and watch your pockets grow with pace. Joe Rogan just revealed something that has liberal heads exploding across the globe. Joe Rogan essentially just proved to the world that cancel culture is an absolute failure, and that the left-wing media and left-wing Twitter's massive campaign, frankly it was like a month-long campaign to cancel Joe Rogan, led to Joe Rogan and Spotify making millions upon millions of dollars, and Joe Rogan gaining over 2 million subscribers. 2 million subscribers, folks, in just the short couple of weeks where they tried to take him down down and cancel him in their disingenuous, hateful cancel culture campaign. Folks, the culture is shifting, cancel culture is failing, and I'm telling you, companies are paying attention, and eventually, inevitably, the woke mob will self-destruct. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this. Joe Rogan on cancel culture attempt. I gained 2 million subscribers.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically doing the same thing.
You have been put through the ringer.
Yeah, I definitely got put through the ringer.
Since we last met, I mean, they did a number on you.
They did.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Wow.
But my subscriptions went up massively. That's what's crazy. During the height of it all, I gained 2 million subscribers. I gained 2 million subscribers.
What doesn't cancel you only makes you stronger. Attempts to cancel Joe Rogan have apparently only had the opposite effect. The Joe Rogan Experience host claims he's amassed millions of Spotify subscribers amid ongoing uproar over past episodes. And so if we were to quantify that, I'm not exactly sure how it's done. I'm not exactly sure how the system works. I've done a little bit of research here. And from what I understand, you can subscribe to a specific podcast if you like, with 3 choices to either pay $2.99 a month, $4.99, or $7.99 a month. So if we were to calculate that over 2 million subscribers gained in a short period of time. And let's take the low end of the spectrum. Let's just go with the lowest option. Even though the average between the 3 would amount to higher, probably most people would be subscribing by $2.99. A smaller chunk would be subscribing at $4.99, and then a very small chunk would be subscribing at $7.99. So let's actually take, let's say, $3.50 on the average. That's probably low, a little bit of a conservative number. And then let's multiply that by 2 million subscribers. And this is a monthly subscription fee, by the way. A conservative estimate amounts to $7 million a month. Hey, Mr. Neil Young, are you listening? You tried canceling Joe Rogan, and you inadvertently made him and Spotify anywhere near $80 to $120 million a year. Lefty cancel culture crusaders, are you people paying attention? And actually, now that I think about it, I've been running this YouTube channel for 2.5 years, and I still haven't enabled channel membership or paid subscriptions. But it's probably the smartest thing you could do to become uncancelable. Little sellout moment here at the Liberal Hive Mind. You know I never do this stuff, but I've actually opened up paid subscriptions and channel memberships. If you guys want to click the join button, go right ahead. If you don't want to, I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter. I've actually neglected the channel membership option for nearly 3 years now, but now that I'm seeing the power of it with Joe Rogan, I mean, what was I thinking? The point is, when you try to cancel someone, you only make them stronger. And we are seeing this play out over and over and over again. The same thing is happening with Twitter right now. Lefties across the platform, talking heads across left-wing media are decrying just how bad this is. MSNBC is concerned that Twitter can be manipulated for political reasons after Elon Musk buys the platform, as if it's not already being manipulated for political reasons. Complete lunacy. But despite the hysteria, despite the nonsense, the majority of Americans approve of Elon Musk's Twitter buyout, poll finds. And also, at the same time, Twitter tried to explain surge in conservative followers. Conservative accounts have experienced a substantial surge in followers on Twitter since Elon Musk purchased the service on Monday, leading to speculation that something has changed behind the scenes. Twitter, however, says the shift is organic and not proof that it previously doctored the algorithms. And you know what? Twitter's actually right on this. You know what's happening right now is a lot of people are reactivating their Twitter accounts. When Donald Trump got banned off Twitter, I didn't use my Twitter account for I think 3 or 4 months. I just didn't want to support the platform. And I also noticed, I mean, I have a very small following on Twitter, but I think I lost 4,000 or 5,000 followers. People were deactivating their Twitter accounts en masse. And that's a substantial amount considering I only had I think like 25,000 followers at the time. I lost a good portion of my followers. Ever since Elon Musk bought Twitter, not only is my Twitter account booming and I'm getting way more likes than I ever had, but I've gained thousands of subscribers as people are finally coming back to the platform. My friends are also coming to the platform. People who never wanted to be involved with Twitter because it's a left-wing cesspool, all of a sudden are joining in and participating in the online discussion that happens on the platform. And that's a good thing. That's what happens when you move away from left-wing partisanship and woke garbage nonsense. It's good for business. You make millions upon millions of dollars and possibly billions upon billions of dollars. As Twitter starts to boom over the next couple of months, the next couple of years, ad revenue is going to follow. And then as Elon Musk comes in and tries to monetize the platform better, bringing in a subscription model for Twitter Premium like he's been saying, well, the more enthusiasm and support there is for the platform, the better the platform gets with Elon's leadership, the more people will be incentivized to actually subscribe. I am going to subscribe to Twitter Premium if the platform goes in the right direction when it comes to free speech and starts to break the left-wing mold that we've seen over the last couple of years. And if I'm going to do it, I guarantee you millions upon millions of other people are going to do the exact same thing. Everything that counteracts the woke nonsense, the left-wing vitriol and intimidation, the unhinged nature of the left, just the left-wing garbage that we see, seems to succeed spectacularly. And every single time, the left launches a disingenuous cancel culture or hit piece campaign against an individual or an entity, it almost always backfires and makes that entity or that individual a whole lot more rich than they were before the fact. Companies are paying attention as Netflix sheds billions of dollars in market cap as they get woker and woker and woker. And by the way, there's now news that Netflix is going to be firing a whole lot of people. Well, Twitter is going to be doing the exact opposite. And as Spotify stood by Joe Rogan and told the cancel culture mob to take a hike, it seems they've made nearly $100 million a year in potential new revenue as a result of this malicious left-wing campaign. Folks, companies are going to start paying attention. They're going to pay attention to what Spotify is doing, they're going to pay attention to what Twitter's doing, and they're going to realize that getting woke and going broke is inherently bad for business. The culture is shifting, folks, and that is exactly what we are seeing. But that's also what I got for you guys, so if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Will rise against you.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Folks, I'm sure you guys have heard this before. I'm sure growing up, your parents probably told you this. Show me who your friends are and I will show you who you are. And you know what? It's a cliche, but for the most part, cliches are grounded in some sort of reality. Well, in today's online world, the equivalent would be, show me your Twitter history and it'll show me exactly who you are. And once again, we have another situation where somebody's Twitter past comes back to haunt them. Not in the garbage cancel culture manner where someone made some joke like 10 years ago, and then the disingenuous, dishonest, hateful left-wing mob comes to try to cancel them and destroy their career. We're just in another situation where a person is exposed as a left-wing partisan hack after being put in a position of power where they are expected or presented as a neutral arbiter of fact and truth, when clearly that couldn't be further from exactly that, the truth. Today we're going to talk about Joe Biden's new Minister of Truth, as it seems the Democrat establishment, as expected, right on time as Elon Musk buys Twitter and as Obama has been waging his war on disinformation, with Hillary Clinton joining his efforts. Well, it seems as though the Joe Biden administration is starting some sort of anti-free speech, pro-censorship campaign, right on time, exactly as expected, and they're doing it in the most disingenuous, dishonest, biased, partisan manner you could possibly imagine. Let's expose Joe Biden's new Minister of Truth, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned with the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this. Revealed, Biden's new disinformation head has a history of spreading disinformation. On Wednesday, it was announced that the Department of Homeland Security would be launching a, quote, disinformation governance board, which will be headed by Executive Director Nina Jankowicz. Jankowicz herself, though, has been revealed to have spread disinformation on a number of topics. In screenshots of old tweets posted to Twitter, she was seen dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop as Russian misinformation, slamming free speech, and bashed Twitter's decision to stop taking action against 2020 election posts. Jankowicz on numerous occasions has discredited the Hunter Biden laptop story, saying, quote, it's a fairy tale and disinformation. Let me present to you Department of Homeland Security's new disinformation executive. Nina Jankowicz on Twitter writes, not to mention that the emails don't need to be altered to be part of an influence campaign campaign. Voters deserve that context, not a fairy tale about a laptop repair shop. Nina Jankowicz writes, back on the quote laptop from hell, apparently Biden notes 50 former NatSec officials and 5 former CIA heads that believe the laptop is a Russian influence operation. Trump says, quote, Russia, Russia, Russia. Isn't that interesting? Joe Biden's new minister of disinformation happened to be supporting, amplifying, and pushing a disinformation campaign to help Joe Biden's bid for the presidency of the United States by claiming the Hunter Biden laptop, which was obviously his laptop. Like everyone keeps saying, I mean, it's pretty believable that a crackhead would randomly forget his laptop at a computer repair shop. Not to mention the photos are of him, clearly not Photoshop. A lot of the emails and text messages and stuff that's been revealed have been confirmed as real by Hunter Biden's direct associates. It's clearly his laptop. The media now admits it. The intelligence community admits it. Yet she was pushing, back then, she was promoting this disinformation campaign to claim that it was Russian disinformation. A little bit fishy to say the least. And speaking of fishy, Jack Posobiec posts this little gem on Twitter. Jankowicz is a former advisor to the Ukrainian government under a Fulbright Clinton Fellowship. Nina Jankowicz studies the intersection of democracy and technology in Central and Eastern Europe. She is the author of How to Lose the Information War, Russia, Fake News, and the Future of Conflict. Mrs. Jankowicz has advised the Ukrainian government on strategic communications under the auspices of a Fulbright Clinton Public Policy Fellowship. What we have here is no coincidence. Somebody deeply connected with the Clintons a couple weeks after Obama and Hillary Clinton have been pushing this campaign to fight, quote, online disinformation in order to preserve and save democracy. And then a couple weeks later, a new disinformation governance board pops up at DHS with her as the executive director. How absolutely weird. But also, of course, not surprising in the least. Democrats have been idolizing tyrannical regimes and their control on information, and have been moving in that direction slowly over the last couple of years. I mean, you can just tell by their stances on free speech. We got another tweet here from Nina Jankowicz. Trump's speech is definitely the most presidential thing he's ever done, but still missing a disavowal of disinformation and conspiracy theories. And once again, for the people in the back, the quote, free speech versus censorship framing is a false dichotomy. That right there pretty much says it all, folks. That and the fact that we're now getting reporting that the Biden administration has called for reforms to Section 230 since taking office in 2021, Associated Press and Reuters report. Just like we constantly see from the Democrats, if they cannot win on the merits of the ideas, which we know they can't, I mean they literally never do, then it's time to circumvent the system or change the system so that it benefits them. And that's exactly what these Democrats do. Lie, 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 spread propaganda and disinformation while attacking and labeling anything on the other side as exactly that, propaganda, lies, and Russian disinformation. This is an administration that is unable to thrive on reality. But what the reality is they're only able to frankly survive by controlling information and controlling the narrative. This is an administration that is built upon layers and layers, frankly a mountain of lies. Like this right over here, once again from the DHS. DHS Chief Mayorkas absurdly claims, quote, we have effectively managed Biden's border crisis as millions of illegals pour over the border.
Yet, we have effectively managed an unprecedented number of non-citizens seeking to enter the United States.
This is an administration that seeks to create a veil of propaganda to cast a shadow over and hide the truth at all costs. It's an administration that feigns transparency and virtue, that claims to be fighting disinformation by promoting disinformation and then literally promoting Democrat bias left-wing partisans and propagandists to positions of power to ironically combat disinformation. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. The whole thing is just absurd. Contradictions, the hypocrisy, the irony, the lies. Once again, kind of like this one, Joe Biden, aka the big guy. I got involved in politics because I think the greatest sin anyone can commit is abuse of power.
We were talking about on the way over what got me involved in politics. I got involved in politics because I think the greatest sin anyone can commit is the abuse of power.
Abuse of power, as him and his Democrat cronies continue to politicize the DOJ, the DHS, the FBI, and the CIA, and also as the Biden crime family continues to be exposed for their total abuse of power in order to make millions. Take a look at this from the Daily Mail. Exclusive, Joe's missing millions. Financial records reveal Biden had $5.2 million in unexplained income, as emails show he paid Hunter's legal bills for one megabucks Chinese deal and was tapped as the big guy to get 10% cut in another. peddler. This is the guy who's condemning abuse of power, while at the same time his minister of truth, top executive fighter at the DHS against disinformation, is exposed as a peddler of Democrat disinformation. You can't make this stuff up, folks. These people are phonies, these people are frauds, and these people must be stopped at the ballot box. It's the most reliable way, folks, because as we know, as much as we hope, as much hopium as we have, that federal agencies are going to do their job for the most part, we know these political Democrat elite are never held accountable. Absolute liars, absolute snakes. But of course, that's what I got for you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
被口臭纠缠吗？牙周氏漱口水3倍除菌量，护龈好口气。
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now, for the most part, I make a very conscious effort to try to not say stuff like this. When criticizing ideas, I like to stay on the actual content of what people are saying. I try to stay away from the hyper-partisan, personal stuff, but sometimes, man, it's just hard. And look, I never say this, but I'm gonna say it this time. I actually just can't stand these people. These left-wing elitists, these illiberal, phony liberal, ivory tower, Hollywood, and New York talking heads are just the worst. I mean, you have to be out of your mind to say some of the things that they say. I mean, if we just stick to the base topic of this video, the big thing right now, the big outrage of the left, what lefties are warning will have dire consequences, is the idea of free speech on the internet. These people are trying to cause outrage over the First Amendment, not the second or third or fourth or fifth, the First Amendment. Number one, what is considered to be the bedrock of this incredible society? What is the foundation of what made the Western world great above every other authoritarian, tyrannical society of the past and in the Eastern world? This is why these people are not progressives, even though they claim to be, they are regressive. And so that's exactly what we're going to tackle, this leftist hypocrisy, just some of the ridiculous stuff that's coming out of these left-wing talking heads. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so first we just got to start off with the view. Like I always say, folks, if you guys are looking for the most garbage analysis on the internet or on TV, then look no further, just turn on The View and enjoy your brain exploding. I mean, the women of The View were having an utter meltdown over Elon Musk buying Twitter. But let's stay focused on this idea of the illiberal liberal. We have an 8-minute segment covering Elon Musk buying Twitter, and literally the first 8 seconds show you exactly who they are.
So the richest person in the world, Elon Musk, is also a notorious Twitter troll. But he won't have to worry about being banned anymore.
She presents this as if it's a bad thing. Elon Musk, notorious Twitter troll, can't get banned anymore. Oh my god, folks. Democracy and freedom is done. Elon Musk and others like him can't get banned anymore for having opinions that liberals disagree with. The stance that Mrs. Joy Behar is taking is that trolling on the internet should be illegal. How can you possibly call yourself a liberal and take that same stance? I mean, talk about being a hypocrite. And of course, we know the worst hypocrisy is that liberals themselves control all they want, death threats, jokes about violence, actual calls to violence, and you will never see anyone on the left side condemn anyone part of their own political faction. Elon Musk tweeted an NPC with a little joke in his total outrage that he could do such a thing. Tweet a meme or a joke. I mean, just how ridiculous. There's also this part of their little segments. Remember how I was just telling you earlier, if you want to see the most garbage analysis about any trending topic in the news cycle, then just turn on The View.
In fact, on Twitter, it is predominantly straight white men. So when Elon Musk says, wow, this is about free speech, it seems to me that it's about free speech of straight white men. And so let them have it. Let them just go at it. I enjoy the block button on Twitter. I think it has a real outsized influence in our world because politicians and celebrities are on it.
I don't think anything else needs to be said here, but in general, the outrage was just palpable.
If you have $44 billion and you use it to buy Twitter, you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
We have all the information we need.
Right.
44 billion. We need it. I mean,
but
put
he's
it
world hunger.
in world hunger.
But
he doesn't know what to do with. It's the same as that change. The two of them went into space because they have no other ideas about what to do with their money. Okay.
I mean, some real deep, intelligent analysis. I don't know about you guys, but anybody who needs to slow down their speech in that way, and you use it to buy Twitter, instantly to me comes off as somebody who has no idea what the hell they're talking about. And of course, what followed in her analysis and in her criticism pretty much proved the same liberal naivete and cluelessness that we've known since the start. $44 billion, according to this person, can end homelessness and end poverty. $44 billion is nothing. You might be able to solve homelessness in like California for like a week with that amount of money. Then what? What these people don't seem to understand is that you can't just pay your way out of these complex social issues. You would be talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars every year in order to do it sustainably. That's the way the economy works. It's transactional. That's the way human nature works. In order to feed yourself, you need to provide a product or some service of value to somebody else to then get paid to feed yourself and your family. Taking $44 billion and buying millions of people a sandwich, you might be able to sustain it for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but then the money dries up. And then what sustainable system have you created? Absolutely nothing. This is what we call liberal naivete, a band-aid fix, left-wing political virtue posturing, and not actually understanding the way the economy works. In other words, liberals have absolutely no argument as to why Elon Musk buying Twitter is a bad thing. Instead, they're complaining that the richest man on the planet bought a platform and they don't like it, and their criticism is that he should have solved global hunger instead. Okay, the absolute genius at The View continues to just be astounding. Let's continue on. Here's MSNBC's Nicole Wallace showing exactly what I mean with the liberal elitist view on free speech.
Where you go back and you can't yell fire in a movie theater. What are the ground rules? And the issue is whether it's Elon Musk or anybody else, it's a problem that's bigger than Elon Musk. What the right has already seized is this ground that they're on the side of free speech. They're really not. They're for the political version of yelling fire in a movie theater.
What the right has already seized is this ground that they're on the side of free speech. They're really not. They're for the political version of yelling fire in a movie theater. What an utterly ridiculous statement. Free speech is bad because people I disagree with have different opinions, which I will then misrepresent as calls to violence in order to continue to advocate for more censorship. Meanwhile, once again, the same hypocrisy. After Elon Musk bought Twitter, this right over here is a small fragment, a fraction, just a very small amount of some of the death threats that lefties were pushing on the Twitter platform. Oh, those right-wingers calling for violence, the political version of yelling fire in a crowded theater. Meanwhile, radical lefties continue to be radical lefties. They are absolute hypocrites, absolute liars, they're dishonest, and it is a purposeful double standard. That's exactly what it is. And now they're pissed that there's even a possibility of this double standard being shattered on the Twitter platform. Their most preferred platform next to Reddit on r/politics, the most biased and heavily censored political forum on the internet. This is what they're scared of. Elon Musk just tweeted, "For Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral," which effectively means upsetting the far right and the far left equally. Danger that these liberal elitists are warning you about. Or maybe something like this tweet: "The extreme antibody reaction from those who fear free speech says it all. By free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask the government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people." This is literally what I've been saying in every single free speech video that I've ever made, that these massive social media companies should not have the ability to just nuke somebody off their platform without a proper court order. Free speech should be protected on the internet by law. If you are not breaking the law, you should be entitled to say whatever you want. And that seems to be the direction that Elon Musk is going in, and liberals are freaking out, probably because of historic context. They do absolutely terribly within the framework of the legal system. Their track record speaks for itself. What they truly want is an online kangaroo court where opinions that they disagree with are treated as criminal. Here's a great example. Rob Reiner writes, "Now that Elon Musk is buying Twitter, the question for all of us is, will he allow a criminal who used this platform to lie and spread disinformation to try to overthrow the US government to return and continue his criminal activity? And if he does, how do we combat it?" Not only is this straight up misinformation, not only is this a rich Hollywood liberal elitist doing exactly what I'm talking about, trying to criminalize a difference of opinion, that being Donald Trump's opinion, but it's also disinformation and slander. Has Donald Trump ever been charged with any crime of this nature? No, he hasn't. Even their partisan left-wing January 6th commission has failed to identify any crime. What we have here is a bunch of elitist, authoritarian leftists who seek to unjustly and unconstitutionally criminalize channelize speech for their own political benefit. And now that they are losing that power in the online social sphere, they are lashing out, throwing tantrums, and melting down exactly as expected. But in the end, it doesn't matter because they represent an extremely small fraction of society. They are the unhinged, extremely loud, overwhelming minority. In the end, good always defeats evil. You have to be an absolute clown over the idea that a social media platform that's going to govern itself with actual free speech in mind. We're talking about the worst of the worst. But of course, that's what I got for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, welcome to Liberal Hi-Fi, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now I just gotta say this, but good morning, Vietnam. Good morning, Vietnam! For those of you guys who've been wondering why I haven't been uploading too many videos for the last 2 days, I'm currently in Vietnam visiting my girlfriend's families. In the community post that I made, a lot of you guys have been asking if I'm moving here permanently, which I am not, of course. Just traveling a little bit. It's been 3 years since my girlfriend came back to her home country, so we're gonna be here for about a month. But regardless, whether traveling or not, the show must go on and I will continue to release 3 videos a day. Just wanted to update you guys on exactly what's been going on. And man, speaking of what's been going on, I have been recording videos for the last 2 days. And what a shame that is, because the news cycle has just been pumping, and everything, of course, surrounding Elon Musk officially buying Twitter, which is probably some of the best news I have ever heard or covered. 2022 is shaping up to be an absolutely incredible year, and you know what that means. When good things are happening, miserable, angry, vile, authoritarian leftists are losing their minds. I mean, talk about a track record. Just like Joe Biden has a track record of failure and dishonesty, these lefty Democrats have a track record of just being on the wrong side of history. The meltdown, the screeching, the crying, the empty threats of leaving the platform, or I don't know, I guess moving to China, is probably going to be the new narrative. God forbid we live in this fascist hellscape with all of this evil glorification of free speech. We're moving to China because internet censorship is the bedrock of democracy. It's probably going to be the new ridiculous Democrat talking point. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but you get the point. Democrats, like usual, are losing their minds, and we just gotta talk about all of the hypocrisy and all of the craziness. I'm gonna start off by showing you guys some of the leaks that we got from Twitter, and then we're just gonna talk about the whole dynamic going on surrounding Elon Musk officially buying Twitter. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so first off, we got some leaked audio from an all-hands-on-deck Twitter meeting that essentially confirms the speculation as to how this whole situation played out.
When we voted this morning, the vote to approve the transaction was unanimous at the board. I think this process was comprehensive and thorough, and ultimately, we felt that this was the best path forward for Twitter and our shareholders. I think many of you understand this, but I also want to just explain the basics of what it means to be a board in this situation. So we are a Delaware company. And as a board in a Delaware company, we have a fiduciary obligation to our shareholders, which means by law, we're required to act in the best interest of our shareholders. What this means in Delaware is a duty of care and a duty of loyalty. That means we have to act impartially, without any conflict of interest, and we have to do our work thoroughly and deliberately.
Clearly, all of these board members were trying to stop the deal. I mean, we covered everything from the poison pill and everything else, but legally, they had a duty to act in the best interest for the shareholders, and essentially were strong-armed to take the deal. Most likely, a good portion of the major shareholders probably threatened legal action or a class action lawsuit, and so the Twitter board had no choice. They had to cave. So many people were doubting Elon, myself included. I mean, I had a little bit of hopium going. I kept saying that word, man, I hope this happens, but I don't know if it will, seeing as though I'm not exactly a lawyer or a corporate lawyer dealing with corporate mergers or corporate takeovers. But of course, Elon Musk had the proper counsel, and Elon Musk probably knew the entire time, considering his comments and some of his cryptic messages, alluding to the fact that he in the end was going to win. And win he did, and it just continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. And speaking of gifts, here we are with another Twitter source leaking internal Slack communications, essentially confirming that shadow banning is real. Take a look at this right over here from Project Veritas. Interesting. I thought shadow banning never existed. People tell me I'm crazy to say that I'm shadow banned on YouTube when I literally have the analytics to prove it. Behind the scenes, I have all of the analytics and all of the data, but here is an inside Twitter source essentially confirming that they have the power to do it. Turns out what seemed to be a right-wing conspiracy theory in the end was just a conspiracy. And man, oh man, it is all over. It is done. This is one step closer to free speech on the internet, and liberals, left-wingers are seething. Here's a Twitter employee responding to Elon Musk in a Twitter thread. Elon writes, suspending the Twitter account of a major news organization for publishing a truthful story was obviously incredibly inappropriate. Connor Campbell, who seems to identify himself as a Twitter employee, writes, that's not what happened. Twitter had a policy about hacked documents. We applied this policy equally. The merits of that policy are debatable, but it wasn't targeted censorship. Connor Campbell then swiftly got ratioed beyond belief, one of the most disgusting ratios I've ever seen, and swiftly, well, this happened. And on this topic of deleting your own Twitter account, we also have this situation right here with left-wing identity politics grifter Sean King posting this tweet right over here. At its root, Elon Musk wanting to purchase Twitter is not about left versus right. It's about white power. The man was raised in apartheid by a white nationalist, which is just such an utterly ridiculous claim. He's upset that Twitter won't allow white nationalists to target and harass people. That is his definition of free speech. Sean King then threatens to leave the platform, deletes his account. Black Lives Matter activists appear to have quit the platform after labeling the billionaire's purchase a show of white power, only to resurface early Tuesday to lash out at conservatives, including Donald Trump Jr., who is celebrating his absence. Like I've been saying since the start, seething lefties are going to be raging, just like they were during the 2016 and 2020 election. If Donald Trump wins, I'm moving to Canada, but it's nothing but an immature cope and whiny little tantrum. I mean, the utter hypocrisy. The same lefties who have been taking advantage of and cheering online censorship that targets their political opponents. Get your own platform, right-wing chud is what they've been saying. Elon Musk responds with, I'm just gonna take your platform and turn it into a free speech hub. And well, you know, the typical reaction. And speaking of hypocrisy, all of a sudden, after years of cheering on all of these left-wing billionaires, when it was to their benefit, all of a sudden, their tone and their messaging has completely shifted. Take a look at some of these tweets. Robert Reich, who has been on a totally unhinged meltdown, I mean, just take a look at his Twitter feed. He seems to have completely lost his mind. Well, he writes, Zuckerberg owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Elon Musk owns Twitter. When multi-billionaires take control of our most vital platforms for communication, it's not a win for free speech, it's a win for oligarchy. I mean, it's not like we've been literally saying the same thing for God knows how long. All of a sudden, as the pendulum starts to swing in their direction, they start finally admitting the truth and saying the same things we've been saying. The only difference is they're absolute hypocrites and only take these stances when it benefits them politically. David Rothkopf writes, the richest guy in the 2021 Forbes 400 owns the Washington Post. Number 2 now owns Twitter. Number 3 owns Facebook. Number 5 and 6 started Google. Number 4 and 9 started Microsoft. Number 10 owns Bloomberg. Free speech? You decide. Do not trust Elon Musk. Do not trust Jeff Bezos. Do not trust Mark Zuckerberg. Do not trust Tim Cook. Do not trust Sundar Pichai. Do not trust Satya Nadella. Regulate them. Break up big tech. Hold them accountable. The same people who have been defending and protecting these same companies and billionaires who have been controlling the public conversation and the flow of information are the same people who are all of a sudden outraged. They are nothing but hypocrites and political opportunists. I mean, just think about this for a second. They are outraged at the concept that the playing field might be evened just a little bit, that conservatives might actually get a fair share at having their voices heard on a public platform. The loss of absolute control petrifies them, and that tells you exactly who and what they are. Elon Musk buying Twitter is the best thing to happen to free speech on the internet for a very, very long time, essentially over the last 10 years. But it's just the start, folks. It's just the first step. The next step is total decentralization. But for now, just a little bit of equalization is just a beautiful thing. I mean, you just know if lefties are outraged about something, then it's probably good for the greater good of society. But of course, that's what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Want to play?
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now in life, there are good takes and then there are bad takes. There are great takes and then there are absolute dumpster tier takes. You guys want to see an example of a dumpster tier political take? Take a look at Democrat political expert Donna Brazil give her outlook ahead of the 2022 election.
What we have to do is wait over the next 37 days as 11 or 12 states hold their primaries. You have big primaries in Ohio and North Carolina, Pennsylvania, where the former president has already tipped the scales in support of one candidate over another. The Republicans are essentially running on fumes. They're running on the energy of 2020, which is the big lie. Democrats are running on an economy that's roaring back, that is fighting inflation, that is helping the Ukrainians. Democrats will run on what they've delivered. Republicans are going to run on the fumes of 2020.
Now, are you sure that's the prediction you want to make, Mrs. Donna Brazil? Mrs. Corrupt DNC actor who gave Hillary Clinton the questions before a presidential debate? Donna Brazil? Ah, the endless hopium, the endless copium. The GOP is somehow running on fumes as Democrats are running on an economy that's roaring back, as we're most likely headed into a Biden recession. Economic metrics are extremely disconcerting, and the Consumer Confidence Index is the lowest it's been in decades. Yeah, that's a great argument, Mrs. Donna. I get why they pay you the big bucks to show up on TV. What a complete hack, what a complete joke. But what I want to do is get away from this Looney Tune fantasy that Democrats are currently living in and delve in a little bit into what we like to call in the business reality. Republicans are not running on fumes. Republicans are blasting off with jet engines, breaking the damn sound barrier. And no amount of Democrat coke can change that reality. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on as Republicans continue to make massive gains. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with the state of Nevada. Friends, it seems as though the state of Nevada is moving towards the direction of Florida. It's a place that Democrats have been dominating for a while, and it's probably the one state that is moving fastest towards the red column, alongside the state of Florida. Now when it comes to the 2022 election, the narrative, at least the mainstream narrative that the mainstream media is trying to push, is that Republicans are likely to take the House and maybe they might regain the Senate. That's the narrative that they are very strongly trying to hold on to. But it seems once again like hopium, as there's now a very distinct possibility that the state of Nevada's Senate seat flips red. We got this right over here from Trafalgar Group that's been historically very accurate. The Trafalgar November poll has Laxalt +3. Well, what does this mean? This means that if these numbers are accurate, Republicans are very likely to flip a seat in the Senate, and one is all that's needed. And I'd say that'd be greatly underestimating Republicans heading into 2022. What it really looks like is that Republicans are going to win a strong majority in both the House and the Senate. And that is specifically because of Joe Biden and the Democrat establishment failures during the first year and a half of his time in office. As I keep stating, Joe Biden's approval rating is the greatest indicator of state flips. And if we look at Joe Biden's approval rating when it comes to the state of Nevada, Joe Biden is currently sitting at a dismal 33% approval, lower in the state of Nevada than it is as a total. And the dynamic that we need to look at is that as Joe Biden continues to fail and people continue to lose trust in his presidency and in his leadership, Republicans across the nation are becoming more and more popular. Take a look at this. Popular Youngkin turning Virginia red again and sparks, quote, whispers of 2024. And this article is covering a new Zogby poll, as you can see in the graphic right over here. Glenn Youngkin, the new governor of the state of Virginia, boasting an approval rating of 56.5% approval. And let's look at Joe Biden's approval in the state, sitting at 47.3%. Joe Biden underwater in a Democrat state, or what was viewed as a Democrat state, but not only underwater, nearly 10 points behind the new Republican governor. Governor Glenn Youngkin actually giving Ron DeSantis a run for his money, surprisingly enough. We've got this from the US Sun. With a 58% approval rating, DeSantis had the highest of all elected officials mentioned in the survey. Folks, the two most popular politicians, major leaders in American politics, with the highest approval rating are Governor Ron DeSantis and Governor Glenn Youngkin. This is what I mean by Republicans are blasting off. And you know why that is? Because Republicans actually actually stand for something. Republicans are actually doing things. Donna Brazil says Republicans are running on the fumes of the 2020 election, but once again it seems to be projection. The only party that's running on fumes from the 2020 election is probably the Democrat Party, or the party that's still talking about January 6th nearly 2 years later, as if it's some sort of great concern heading into the 2022 election. They have nothing. Meanwhile, Republicans continue to actually deliver results for their constituents. For instance, this right over here.
This is Governor Greg Abbott. The past 2 days have been historic for the state of Texas. I've met with governors from border states in Mexico to reach agreements where those governors in Mexico will be securing the border to reduce cross-border immigration into the state of Texas. If you think about it, in the past 2 days alone, I've done more than what the Biden administration has done in the past 15 months to address border security. As your governor, I will continue to work every day to secure our border.
Where Republican Governor Greg Abbott of the great state of Texas is doing more to combat a serious crisis at the southern border than the President of the United States. This right here is what is fueling this massive shift in voter sentiment, and it's a shift that we can actually quantify. All the middle ground, purple, battleground states are moving closer and closer to that red column. Here's a Pennsylvania election trend to sort of put that into perspective. In 2008, Democrats won with a plus 10.4% lead, or 620,000 votes. In 2012, 309,000 votes, a plus 5.4% lead. And in 2020, with all of the circumstance playing against the Republican candidate, with all of the funny business going on, Democrats only won, or Joe Biden, the most popular Democrat president of all time, only won by a measly 80,000 votes. We are seeing this in all of the most important states. Whether it's a slow march or a slow trend rightward, or a shift in voter registration patterns. Specifically, we covered this in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, where 4 times more people are leaving the Democrat Party to register as Republicans than vice versa. And it's all about the issues. The Democrats are just on the wrong side of nearly every single